We
Hello.
are live, baby. We're live. How about that red dot?
Sir, we're good.
Woo! Hot
We
dog,
are
diggity
Gucci.
dog. Good to see you guys. Welcome to Hawk Wins Radio Picture Show. Happy Wednesday to you.
Happy Hump Day.
Happy Hump Day. Hope you're out there celebrating.
It is the hump of the day.
It's the Humpty Hump. Humpty Hump. As always, here we are with your co-host. My name is Jack Dwyer.
And I'm Jay Smooth.
We're going to have a really fun show for you guys tonight, as we do every Wednesday here at Q4 Radio. But before we do, we got to get started. Jay Smooth, it was your birthday, brother. Tell us, how was your birthday?
It was
you had
my
a good
birthday.
week, man?
It was pretty good. It was a very good week, actually, yeah.
A very good week? Was that a pun?
No.
Did you eat berries? Did you see a bear?
I wish. No, it was pretty good, man. I hung out with some family, hung out with some friends. It was good, bro.
That's good, man.
Yeah, man.
Did you get spankings for your birthday? For how many years old
I
you
got
are?
all the spankings for my birthday.
In your birthday suit, I hope, right?
Oh.
Attaboy.
Yeah.
Well, very cool, man. Yeah, it's the season. It's the holiday season. People are having celebrations. It's fun. I just celebrated my niece's birthday too, which was super fun.
Oh, yeah.
I went to the Walnut Room in Chicago. It's been a family tradition of mine ever since I was a kid. I remember going there when I was still shitting in my pants and looking out on State Street and seeing all the holiday lights and everything. It was cool seeing that through your family's eyes, like through kids again. So it's always cool. December birthdays rock. They're fun. You know, you're still in school to celebrate, but if your birthday's a little too close to Christmas, I can see how that gets a little muddy.
Yeah. That's the whole thing with like being like a young kid in school and having birthdays is like your birthday's sometimes on the school day.
Right. At least you're not a summer birthday.
But if you're like an adult, it doesn't matter because sometimes summer birthdays are just work birthdays, bro. So like my birthday was on a Thursday and like I didn't do shit that day, but like I called off that Friday and Saturday.
Extra weekend days. Hell yeah. Absolutely.
I don't think it was extra, but my boss got pretty pissed off that I called off. But I don't care, bro. You know?
Hey, tell them you were too well to come in. You were way too well to come in.
You know, like they're going to replace you no matter what. So who cares?
You know, you still got to live your life at the end of the day, you know, and celebrate on your birthday and recharge the batteries
It's
or
all
whatever
about
it
you,
is
bro.
that you need. Yeah,
You know?
Absolutely. It's your day to be you. You can be selfish. It's your birthday. You could cry if you want to. Cry if you want to. Cry if you want to.
And I'll cry if I want to. It's my birthday. What's her name, bro?
What?
The fucking artist that fucking...
It's my... Is that Cindy Crawford?
Was it Cindy Crawford?
Was it Cindy Crawford? I don't know. For anyone tuning
Who was
in.
it? He knows who it is. Who was
you know?
it, bro?
I don't remember her name, but she it's an oldie. That's from like the 50s. It's my birthday and I'll cry if I want to.
Yeah.
Who
I
was
think
it?
that was Cindy Crawford. Girls just want to have fun. I don't believe
You're thinking
that,
Cindy
but
Lauper.
Cindy Lauper.
Cindy Crawford was the
Cindy
model.
Crawford was the model. Wrong Cindy. Sorry, Cindy. Was it Cindy Lou Who? No, it wasn't. Couldn't be who. But with that reference, we should send it over to our guest here for hopping in on that hot take there. If you guys do know, it's my party and I cry if I want to. Who is it? Tell us. Leave it in the comments. Let us know. While you're at it, hit share, subscribe to our show. We're here every Wednesday interviewing Chicago artists of all different mediums. This week, we got a stand-up comic in the audience tonight. Oh, yeah, baby. Everybody, please welcome to the show stand-up comedian Joe Fernandez.
Hello.
With the hit specials, he has Demented, and his other one is called Ugly. It is on YouTube and Tubi.
Yeah,
if
bro.
you're big on Tubi, check out Tubi.
The highest level of entertainment where anything is free.
Or not to be.
Oh, right. Yeah, good
To be or
reference.
not
Yeah.
to be. That was your joke.
Yeah. I was going to say, by the way, saying his birthdays, my buddy Jesus' birthday is coming up.
Oh,
I'm getting
Jesus.
that guy some frankincense.
Yeah, go Jesus.
To be real, he's got two birthdays because he also has the best zombie story of all time.
Dude, also, it's crazy that we get a full week off for his birthday, but him coming back to life, you don't even get like a 3-day weekend. And that's the harder thing to do, I would argue.
For sure. Nobody has to come into this world, but going out and coming back,
Dude,
that's a lot.
he's the man.
Well, Joe, we're so excited to have you on board today, brother. It's we've been watching your stand up, getting ready for your show in anticipation, and I just want to like get down to the brass tacks of it, baby. I mean, you've been a comic for how many years now?
Since 2007, probably 2008, something like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you've been at it for quite a bit. And
Yeah.
you were from Where the Stars at Night Are Big and Bright.
I mean,
See, I told you, they all do it there, bro.
yeah, dude. It's. I mean,
Jesus.
Pee Wee Herman taught everyone how it works. Have you ever seen that? The Big Adventure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it works, though. I did it in Texas, and like 50 people did it.
Of course. Yeah, yeah. Texas has a pride that is unparalleled in the United States. Like, you know, I mean, they were their own country for a bit. Texas history is a course. I don't think they teach Illinois history here.
They
right?
used to.
Really?
Chicago history, they used to. They got to bring it back.
I mean, they
Thanks,
teach.
Rahm Emanuel.
Yeah. The one thing that I think.
Thank you, Rom.
Yeah. So you know how like people always think about the Alamo as like this courageous story, right? What people don't know, and they certainly don't bring this up in Texas history, is that the people that were fighting at the Alamo, Mexicans are the hero because they had abolished slavery, and Texas didn't want that. So it is a weird inverse, like everyone thinks of it as a courageous battle, and it's like, no, but they were fighting for arguably the worst cause imaginable. So it was a very noble stand for the worst reasons that could ever have happened. Did you guys know that about the Alamo?
I did.
Oh, you did?
I visited, and I remember.
Do they put that in the information there?
It's
Right next to the spot where Ozzy Osbourne pissed?
Yeah.
Wait, where did Ozzy Osbourne piss?
He pissed on the
I'm
Alamo.
very
Alamo, he got-
I'm very uncultured, so I have no idea.
Yeah. You know, only cultured people. You know when people are eating caviar talking about where Ozzy Osbourne's pissed?
Boy, let me tell you about Dave Matthews. I got a story for you.
Yeah, he dumped shit in the river, and then Ozzy Osbourne pissed on the Alamo.
Jesus Christ.
Historical spots. No, Alamo did talk about that though. They
Really? I didn't
yeah.
realize they would. I thought they'd hide that.
Yeah, because you got to tell both sides of the story. You know what I mean? There's two sides to every battle or anything that's going on in history. So you gotta represent.
I know, but Texas textbooks even are kind of like, how can we hide the worst parts of American history? You know, because a lot of textbooks are made down there.
Yeah.
And they try and hide everything bad.
Imagine controlling the history and the narrative of that through that. That's a lot of power. Abbott Elementary. Is that the company that does it? It is Abbott.
No, well,
isn't it?
also, Calculators TI is for Texas Instruments.
Yeah.
So even the math, it won't let you go past negative 6,000 because that's when the world started.
What the fuck?
I'm kidding. That's not real at all.
I was gonna say.
I
no,
used to use
no.
Texas Instrument fucking
Yeah.
calculators as
Yeah.
a kid, bro.
For writing boobs on the calculator.
I know.
Flip it upside down.
What is it? Yeah,
For writing, what is it, penis? Or what the fuck?
that's the Pen 15 Club.
Oh, Pen 15. There you go.
But boobs was 80085,
Five.
right? And that was upside down,
And upside down.
which is weird because eights I think look the same, right?
It's you just got to squint your eyes.
You just
at
gotta-
it. It's
Hope.
Yeah, hope a little bit. It's an abstract.
Yeah.
It's
And
an
then you do the
abstract.
kid you couldn't trust because he's the one who got hard looking at it. You're like, hang on, dude, that's just a word.
You jerking off to that calculator?
Why do you go to the bathroom every time we do this bit?
Jesus Christ.
You know what the scariest part about the Alamo that I remember though? You watch Pee Wee's Big Adventure and his bike that got stolen wound up in the basement of the Alamo. Do you know it was the actual basement of the Alamo? It was just a food cellar that they dumped all the dead bodies.
Oh, did they really?
They did.
Okay, I didn't know that part. I know
Yeah.
that Davy Crockett apparently also was a bit. I mean, I did a report on it. Apparently, Davy Crockett like hid in the corner. No offense, but like a bitch. And hey,
Yeah.
man, you know, he apparently is hid and was captured. They always talk about him as like this big, courageous. Like, what was that TV show they had of him too? You know, because he was like he was like a lawman from Tennessee. So all the stuff about him is made up completely. About him being this like avid hunter guy. It's just a mythological thing.
I mean, the raccoon on your head is probably a red flag to begin with. Probably not a guy you want to follow.
Like if he wore that to Congress, it'd be a little strange. Yeah, he's from Tennessee though, I think. Yeah.
They did invade it with a fur on their head. Still doesn't hold up.
Jesus.
Sheesh. Oh man. But let's get down to it, man. How long have you been into comedy? When did you get started?
Like high school, I moved here from Houston and got into improv and sketch at that time. And then college, I just did improv at that point. And it was my freshman year, I did it like once a week. I somehow snuck into this bar. I was like, yeah, get that camera angle. Come on now. There you go. You guys seeing me all the way, bro? Okay.
Oh yeah.
There we go. That's
There
what
we
I
go.
want. I want
So
all.
handsome. We got to show you off, man.
But yeah, when I was in college, once a week I didn't think I was even sneaking in, but there's a bar in Milwaukee called the Safe House. Have you ever heard of it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you have. Yeah,
Yeah.
you have to know the password, and if you don't, they make you do something goofy up front. But for whatever reason, they would just let me in, and I would get to do an open mic there once a week. That was the first time I ever did stand-up, was at that place my freshman year, once a week. And then and I thought you were supposed to write new material every week, so I would write like 4 minutes every week. And it wasn't until like I saw other people, I'm like, man, these guys are doing the same jokes. And I didn't realize you could do that until after my senior year of college, which then I was doing like 2 open mics a week. But I mean, again, that was like, you know, compared to what people normally do, which is when you move to Chicago, you can do like 5 in a night, whatever. And when I got here, that's when I started to do it legit and all that stuff. And I was doing like improv too, but then I realized it's kind of hard to balance the two. And only one pays you.
Really?
Yeah, stand up. You lose money doing improv. You have to pay a coach.
Right.
So, yeah, you have to take a student loan program to do all of the classes that they do for improv. It's like probably by the end of an improv course, right? You've spent $2,000. Isn't it like $200 for 8 weeks? And they have like
Depends where
6
you go,
levels.
yeah. Depends where you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where are you going?
But you know that's interesting though, that you know you're talking about how when you first got started that you were coming up with new material for each week that you would come up with, and that's kind of a cool organic way to start. This is going to sound no offense by any means, but when you start spinning your wheels like that, you get the ideas flowing, you get the juices going. You get the cream of the crop that rises to the top.
Yeah, but you also have nights where it's just the worst bits of all time
Oh,
because you're just forcing.
sure.
Dude, I had one that the host of the open mic was like, "Hey, if you do that again, you can't come back." Where it was, I talked about Girls Gone Wild, and I said, "What about Guys Gone Wild?" And I'd cut a hole in the bottom of my boxers so my nuts would fall out.
What?
And the guy's like, "Hey, you can't do that again." But I was like 20 or something, or 19. I didn't know any better. I was like, this will be alternative and edgy. You know,
Well,
showing my nuts to 8 comics in the back bar.
Learning you can't do something is still learning something.
Yes, that is true.
Yeah.
And it's better than, at least I didn't show up in like blackface or something. I just showed my nuts.
Sure.
Just showed my nuts to a room full of people.
I mean, Jim Morrison did it, and look how he turned out.
Yeah.
You know? Come on.
Dude, I mean,
Be that
you
bad.
piss on the Alamo, you show your nuts to people. They're the same thing. It's the path to either a legendary career or one that's at okay at best, which is what I am.
Jesus.
Lenny Bruce is applauding you in his grave. Right
Hell
now.
yeah, man. That's exactly what he did. He always showed his nuts on stage. Did
he actually? I know Rodney did. Rodney
Oh,
Dangerfield.
I didn't know that. Really?
Oh, Rodney was a robe guy. Rodney was a robe guy.
And he would show his nuts on stage?
I don't maybe know on stage, but being around.
Oh.
I've
To
never
other
met the
people,
guy.
yeah,
I
yeah.
can't vouch, but from what I've heard, I've heard.
That's a great way to get respect. You're
Hey.
always looking for it.
He's always looking for it. Yeah,
I
tight
finally-
collar all the time, and now he's got something loose hanging.
Finally got some respect when I show my testicles to people.
Sheesh.
Yeah, is this how you want it to go?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Hey,
Pretty
I
much,
mean,
yeah.
we're no holds barred.
Yeah.
Your dark comedy is really funny though, and that's something that we really appreciate in
Thanks,
comedy.
man. Yeah.
And it's one of the questions that we had for you is, in a world where I think pre-COVID everybody was a little less PC and people were a little more free to talk about things. I watched your specials filmed pre-COVID and post-COVID. Can you maybe talk about what transitions did you have through that now that people are a little more reserved, but the better comedic recipients maybe aren't and they're still there? I would just like to hear your opinion.
You know
on
what I
that.
really think it is Trump being elected made it hard. I think 2016 to 2019 was a little weirder, and same with now a little bit, because we were trying to be satirical, talking about serious subjects. Now people don't know if you're serious or not. Hang on, wait a minute. Does he really believe that, or is that him being ironic? So I think there is a shift. Because of COVID, I don't think I noticed a discernible difference, And obviously, based on both specials, I don't feel like there was a huge difference between the material in terms of it being. I talk about leaving someone because their face got ripped off by a chimp, and I feel like that's
That was a valid question. I really thought that one through. I've thought that myself. I think it was after seeing you do stand up before, and I was like, "That's a valid question."
and I do think, dude,
Gets the people thinking.
if I got horribly disfigured and I had I'd be like, look, you want to have sex with someone who isn't horribly disfigured, generally speaking. If you're on a dating site and you did see that, face or no face, you would take face.
Take this.
Obviously.
But then it's if you're in a I just feel like honestly, because I do therapy, I'm like, half my bits I feel like are what's called intrusive thoughts, where it's like, hey, that may be a bad thought, but there's also nothing wrong with it, or even if there is something wrong with it, it's a normal human thing to think. Like, sometimes I feel like that's where people get reserved, is where they're like, I don't want to admit to thinking anything bad. And it's like, no, but everyone does, and that's okay. It's more when you try and repress that shit that it's like, either you're trying to be perfect, or it comes out in the worst way possible. One of the two. But yeah, I mean, I feel like, honestly, with that one, I'm just like, dude, everyone would have that thought. If their partner's face got ripped off by a chimp, you would probably at least want to be in an open relationship.
For sure. I mean, look into any like disfigurement, you know, like I used to spit fire, but I tell anyone who ever wants to do it, I go, look at what a burn victim looks like.
Wait, hang on.
Really come back and let me know if you want to do this.
You're burying the lead on that. You used to spit fire? Like, do the thing?
I used to spit and swallow.
Oh, now real quick, Jack.
What?
If your face got disfigured, what would you expect your partner to do?
If she just wanted to leave me, I'd understand. You know, I'd get into like model trains or something like that. Something simple. You know,
The thing that'll really get you some pussy when you have a messed up face.
yeah. You know, find another model train enthusiast.
Hang on, but what?
I'm
hang
kidding.
on.
I'm kidding.
Did you really do that stuff?
Yeah. You know, when I first started getting into comedy, I was trying to. Not quite like you ripping your nuts out, but I was trying.
Like spitting fire is even crazier.
I would try to be a little edgy in my shows, yeah. So I would do fire performances. I still do them from time to time, given the pay. But yeah, when I first started doing it, I would. I don't want to say this online, what you can do, but there's a fine drink at Binny's Beverage Depot. And if you can't find it there, it's probably not worth drinking, and you probably shouldn't drink it.
Everclear?
It's called Everclear.
Oh yeah,
There's a
dude.
drink called Everclear.
You can only find it in suburbs now.
Or just
really, yeah, good.
Shady house
Good.
parties. I bet that's where I've had it most.
Yeah.
I only know
Those
that
jungle
because
juices.
You can infuse it with weed and make tinctures out of it.
Oh shit!
That's why I know Everclear is only available in the suburbs.
I know what you're getting for Christmas.
Yeah. What is jungle juice again?
Jungle juice is it's a concoction. I think it originated in the American Midwest house party fraternity party, where they would just get one of those big igloo coolers with the little spout on it, and they would just kind of like pour whatever's in there, and people would spike it with things. It was the punch.
I remember Mountain Dew being in the ones we had in college, and that's why I was like, I forget the ingredients. But you know, Mountain Dew, typical jungle beverage.
Yeah.
So it's pretty much that, just whatever alcohol you can find.
And red number 5 will cover up most flavors too. They won't taste.
grenadine or whatever?
They won't
Yeah.
taste the Xanax or the roofies
Yeah.
in it. So
Perfect.
it's a party for everybody.
Yeah.
Don't make jungle juice, kids.
Make it. No, well, now they have Borgs.
What?
Do you know what a Borg is?
It's a Borg.
So now with the young college kids, so they grab a whole gallon of like whatever, and they pour vodka in it.
Rage juice.
They call it Borgs now, and so it's pretty much just a gallon full of vodka and like a little bit of juice. And so
Sheesh.
every St. Patrick's Day, that's what they drink.
Borgs.
Borgs, yep.
Borrigs?
Borrigs.
No idea
Borgs?
how it's spelled, but that's what it's called. They're called Borgs.
Borg.
It's weird that I still like drink. I mean, like, especially after shows, I'll still drink like a college kid. Like, despite being an older gentleman, I love to just get to that level.
What's your go-to poison?
Malort? I love
Malort.
Woof.
No way.
Dude, I know.
You like it?
I love doing the Chicago handshake. And once you get used to the
fucking hate
taste,
Malorts.
once you get used to the taste, though, it honestly, it doesn't burn going down. And like that's why I drink it. I like it better than whiskey, and like tequila's fine, but I literally will do an old style Malort all the time. It's so
Really?
chill.
That's
yeah,
terrible.
You transplants are odd, man.
I know. Well, that is another thing though. Moving from Texas, like everyone complains about Chicago winters. I'm like, that's how I feel about like Houston or New Orleans summers, where I'm like that humidity. I would rather be in the cold any day of the week than leave my apartment and immediately be sweating because it's so muggy and gross out.
Right. And Houston, no offense, is like the tailpipe of Texas, too.
Dude.
It's the hottest, muggiest of them all.
It's so gross. You walk out and you feel like you're in a sauna right away, which would be nice if you weren't wearing clothes, trying to go somewhere not looking like a sweaty asshole.
Right. I mean, you can always layer up so much, but you cannot take so much off.
That's
before-
always been my argument.
right.
That in the wintertime, it's like if you, and also it's like kind of nice on a winter night to just like cuddle up under some blankets and just feel that warmth. Whereas like, yeah, air conditioning, I guess, feels refreshing, but like not to the level of like a nice night in and just, I don't know. Sometimes I like the wintertime too because it actually, like I said, I like going out. It gives me a reason to stay in if it's like 0 degrees out. I'm like, oh, all right, no one else is out. I'm not missing anything. Kind of helps with like FOMO and stuff a little bit because it's like,
Right.
who is out right now?
With all the entertainment and even like video production, editing and things that you can do nowadays, like in the wintertime, like even when COVID first hit, they're like, you need to stay indoors during the winter. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, I have so much cool stuff I can do on my computer. This is fine.
Yeah.
You know?
I will say, do y'all like look back on the pandemic with rose-colored glasses? I forget if that's the expression. No, you don't?
Hell no, dude. The pandemic was terrible.
Oh, wait. Well, how old
Yeah.
are you, though?
I'm 27.
So, oh, you weren't in college, though, at that time.
I had just done college. I just finished college during that time.
God, that's so crazy to think about. That was 2020 to 2022. Oh, well. I mean, if
We would be
you're...
our senior year graduated if we were freshmen at that time, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Wait, who?
If you compare it to like a high school, like 4 years.
Oh, yeah, yeah. See, and that's why if you were in school, I get it sucking because either you missed prom or you missed graduation or you missed a year and a half of having fun in college.
Well, you just missed like a whole year of just like socializing with your friends and stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I assume if you're probably older, you're probably like used to it.
Dude, well, that's where, like, because I'm older, I was like, oh, this brings me back to being in high school and college where if you can't get into a bar, you have to create your own fun. You go to a buddy's place, you watch movies, you do drinking games. And I was like, oh, man, I forgot, like, how fun this could be, even though it was under, like, miserable circumstances. But, like, there was, like, I mean...
To know you don't have to pay $12 for a Busch Light.
Dude, that was also... I saved so much money and got in the best shape of my life because I, generally speaking, only drink if I am out and about at a bar or if I'm at like a party, I guess. But like, I got into such good shape because I wasn't going out and drinking, wasn't hungover the next day. I mean, and especially the money I saved too. And then also the government giving you free money was
I was
like,
gonna say that was probably the best part.
yeah, never been more financially secure than,
I don't know, man. Daddy Trump, he gave us all the money.
oh yeah?
During that time, hell yeah.
I'm trying to think. Oh yeah, you're right. 2020. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I remember like we would do because Laugh Factory was closed a lot of the time, and I think in October they didn't even have weekend shows, but every Wednesday it was like us and a few folks would get together. There maybe like 20 people or so, like staff and comics, and we would just watch horror movies and drink and stuff in the Laugh Factory. Like they'd put the projector down, and then
Oh,
like
yeah.
it got to a point at a certain point in the after maybe the second week we were like, do y'all want to play like Sardines? Do you ever play that game as a kid?
No,
No,
what is that?
One person hides, and then everyone tries to find them. And once you find them, you hide with them and try and not be the last. So we just, throughout the Laugh Factory, played Sardines. And I was like, man, this is stuff that will never. And we even tried to recreate it one time after a show, and it just didn't happen the same way. I was like, this was like something that'll only happen once. And even though it was like miserable, it's like, oh, yeah, but that was fun. And I just wasn't recognizing that I'll miss this. Because the rest of the time, you forget all the bad times, just being home alone and losing your mind and all that. And all I remember is like the good stuff from it, you know?
Right. That's what you should take from it too. You know, it's funny when a moment passes and you realize that you were in the moment as it was happening, and then you look upon it and you're like, that might not ever happen again.
And then also the thing of like, you did survive it. It's like, oh, I kind of came out of that. I made it through. It was brutal, but then there is something cool about getting out on the other side of it.
Absolutely.
Mentally, you know, obviously physically, I'm feeling bad being like, I know there are some people who just straight up died,
A
but
lot of people did die.
yeah,
That happened.
I heard
Sorry,
tell.
guys.
Yeah.
You know,
It's not my fault I'm young.
Yeah.
Did your comedy change at all through the pre-post pandemic? Because before we got on the air, I was commenting on your one bit about when your dad went to the hospital.
Oh, yeah.
He had the T-shirt that you can buy at the gift shop, and then the photo that would take of your family during traumatic news. I thought that bit was so funny, and I commented on it before we got started that I would love to see how that joke landed post-pandemic.
Yeah.
You know, I was hoping maybe you could talk a little bit about how your stand-ups from that special to this special. Maybe did you see it through a different filter at that point?
I think the only
Did
thing
the audience change?
No, I've never. I mean, you know, I have not noticed any difference in terms of crowds or the way I perceive comedy. The only thing is more just how much more I appreciate doing it. Because there were nights I'd be going to do a show and I'm like, man, I'm just so tired. And now, like, after not having it for about a year and a half when the pandemic was happening, I'm like, oh, I'll never take this for granted again. Like, I didn't realize how much of a release it was, how important it was to get thoughts and ideas out and perform, and how good that feeling is. And so when it got taken away, I'm like, okay, never going to complain about doing a show, never going to, like, take for granted, especially performing at, like, Laugh Factory, for example, where it's like, there were times before the pandemic where I'd be there and I'm performing for like 300 folks and I'm like, oh, I'm just tired. It's like complaining about that's insane now to me to think about. So yeah, I just feel like more lucky that since the pandemic, I get to do it again, and that I'll never just like take it for granted again. I don't feel like anything's changed. I'm trying to think. Comedy stylings wise, I just feel like I feel more comfortable in my skin too. I think I used to be more afraid of doing dark jokes, but that was kind of always the case. And after the first special, I don't think it has to do with the pandemic so much as after the first special, I was like, oh, okay, this is fine. Because I thought like I'd have friends or family who see it who were like going to be offended by something, and then that never came to be. And I was like, oh, I guess this is just fine. And then then after that, it was like, yeah, I feel comfortable telling these jokes now. I don't feel as trepidatious about like how's the crowd going to react. It's not like a concern anymore like it used to be. So it has less to do with pandemic. And maybe during the pandemic I got to reflect more on how appreciative I am of comedy, and also when it comes back, I'm not going to have that same trepidation or fear when I go into my stand-up of like, are people going to be upset? Are people going to be sad? Or like, am I going to bother someone by the stand-up? And now it's like, that's not even a concern anymore, whereas it used to be.
Yeah. And people might even need that relief nowadays too, to say that dark joke, and it kind of lifts a little weight off their shoulder. Oh, I'm not the only one who thought that.
Oh, well, that's what I feel like is a majority of people. You know, I think sometimes when we're online, we see like kind of the biggest losers, the ones who, if you're like that mad about something you see online that you have to comment, most likely you don't have like a ton of friends if you're angry about it. You know what I mean? Because like if I see something I don't like, I just move on. It's like not that hard. But you know, and I have tons of friends who live online who like have to comment on a comedy special, have to do this or that, and it's like, dude, if you don't like something, it's okay to just not like it and then go grocery shopping and move on with your life. It's crazy. Yeah. No, the online stuff is what I don't get. But that's why I think when you perform live, most people are just chill, normal folks. They're out to have a good time. And they honestly respond poorly if there's someone in the crowd who like decides to voice their opinion. They all like hate that person. Even if they're not enjoying you. I've had that happen where I'm like not having the best set, but if someone voices they don't like me, the entire crowd turns on that audience member.
Now, that was going to be my next question. Have you ever had any criticism or any bad hecklers or any bad Karens that have been upset at your dark comedy?
The only ones who voiced it, there was a dude at Lincoln Lodge who got offended, which ironically it was like, I was telling you, he was like enjoying my set till I told some joke about erectile dysfunction, and then he shut down and got mad. And I'm like, dude, of all the things, especially because I was saying dark jokes before that, it's like you are admitting to having erectile dysfunction by getting mad at this part of the show, which is cool that you have erectile dysfunction. It's fine if you're watching. That's what Blue Chew is for. But to like voice, and like he's like, this sucks, man. And then the whole crowd was against him, and I just was like, look, man, whether you guys like my comedy or not, we can all agree that guy's the worst person in the room. And they all clapped. And it's like, you just turned everyone against you by doing that. Because most people are mature enough to be like, if I don't like this, I can either leave or I just don't like it. And that's fine. And then there was one other guy. This dude got real pissed.
Speaking up might be an insecurity of a lot of people. You know
yeah.
Like you just admitted to this whole group of people that you're kind of an idiot.
Yeah, well, and then I was like, this is the guy who kind of got quiet at the erectile dysfunction thing, right? And then he's like, well, I'm rock hard now, and I'm like, I don't think that's the comeback you think it is to say to say you got an erection in front of a crowd of people because I called out your erectile dysfunction. And what a kink to have, to just get embarrassed publicly.
I'm rock hard because you said something about my erectile dysfunction.
Yeah.
Because nervous boners.
Yeah. And then there was one guy, it was, actually that would be, that would be the worst thing to have of all things. Because everyone gets a little nervous on a date. So if you're on a first, you're just like, God damn it, this is another date that didn't go well because I got a nervous boner.
That would suck.
And then even when the girl was nice enough to bring you home, you couldn't get hard because you were no longer nervous because you had had accomplished what you were hoping for.
She's like,
All right,
why do you keep carrying your book bag in front of your crotch?
Yeah. Why did you bring a book bag to our date, and why are you perpetually having it rest on your crotch? And why does the bag keep slightly moving forward? And then one other guy, dude. This guy was wild. He was by himself at a show, and he got offended by something I said, and he started to be like, "Remove me forcibly," and I'm like, "Geez, no!" And everyone was shouting at the guy to leave. So it's just kind of funny because when people do that, I think they think they're being a hero and speaking for the crowd, and then it's not till they shout out that they realize, like, oh, everyone hates me. And even then, they try and be like more brazen about it, and it just gets more embarrassing as it goes on.
Yeah. Because holding a microphone is sometimes like a lethal weapon. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can really put somebody down if you so choose to.
Yeah. Well, and also because you have that power of being, there's something about your voice being amplified, theirs isn't, and people came to see you, not that person. So it's like the double whammy of like, I mean, I don't think I've ever seen it where a comedian, even if they're not doing well, if someone shouts at them, that the crowd then turns on the comic. Like the comic has to have said something so insane and then respond to the heckler, say something so insane that the crowd then is on the heckler's side. I've heard tell of it, but I've never seen it myself. And it's just like, yeah, the audience generally is on the side of the comic, even if they're not liking their
I've seen it done. Somebody was like so racist in Hodunk, Middle Wisconsin, and everybody turned on the comic. It was
That's
so
weird.
funny.
In Middle Wisconsin, they didn't.
But
enjoy that?
I think it was a guy who was like, "Hey, Greg, you're the funniest at the family party. Why don't you go up and do stand up?"
Yeah.
And he went up and did stand up, and it did not go well. It did not go well at all, and none of the comics responded to it well. It was a Hodunk open mic.
Yeah.
but,
Where in Wisconsin was it?
It was at. Can I say? I could say it. It was at. Where was it? It was
Milwaukee.
No, it was up in Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Is it a club or is it like an independent show?
It was an independent show.
Yeah.
A smaller club. I'm not gonna say because I got a lot of respect for these guys.
Yeah.
But I also can't remember the name of it for the God's sake and life of me. But yeah, no, it was. But it was funny to hear somebody go up there and say a bunch of really nasty shit that was so far off that everybody was just like, "This isn't funny."
Yeah.
But on the flip side of that, you have to like hold the mirror up to yourself though too, because I've been that guy too, where I went up and said something, not like what he was saying. I had this like stupid bit that like Gollum from Lord of the Rings went to the chiropractor, and it was fucking stupid.
Yeah,
it
yeah.
was so stupid. But I needed everybody in the audience to tell me that it was fucking stupid for
Yeah.
me to be like, yeah, I'm never going to do that again.
Well, and I run a open mic on Sundays that I give a lot of grace to newer comics that even if they do say something messed up, I'm like, dude, they don't know any better. Like if 2 or 3 years in you're doing it still and you haven't like learned that like, hey, there are people that aren't just your frat house buddies in the crowd. Like, but then, so like if after a while, then it's like, oh, that's just who this person is. But I think a lot of comics come in because I was like, I'm going to say whatever. And not that I still don't kind of have that vibe, except for the fact that like now I know how to craft a joke better, as opposed to just being offensive for the sake of being offensive. It's like, okay, if I've always said like, if I can defend a joke after the show, I'll do it. And if I can't, then I won't. So if anyone comes up to me being like, I was offended by that, I'll be like, well, here's what I was making fun of. So, and then if they're still offended, I can't do anything about that. It's fine. And also, it's okay if they're offended. It's not that big a deal.
That's just like your opinion, man.
Yeah. But I mean, if they are, then it's just like, yeah, man, if you didn't like it, I get it. That's fine. It's not for everybody to touch certain topics, and that's okay. But here's what I was trying to make fun of. Here's what the target was. So even though I used a serious subject, here's what the like underlying thing. But I mean, it's obviously like some folks go up there and when they're first starting, and I used to be this way too, where it's like, why did Anne Frank cross the road to bang Helen Keller? You know what I mean? And it's just
Why?
like that. Yeah.
Is there a way to like differentiate like when you first start like these jokes of like, all right, these aren't that tasteful, consider like, and then you move on to like be a better comic. All right, these jokes are a little bit more tasteful. How do you differentiate these jokes?
I think just
And
knowing.
where do you draw the line?
I think it's like knowing what you're actually making fun of. So even if you like have a serious subject, if you're like, okay, but I'm using that example as a heightened level to illustrate this further point, right? So like the point of the whole, like we were talking about the whole leaving someone they get disfigured is kind of like, hey, we all kind of have this bad thing inside of us that we don't want to admit to, but we all can agree that even if you were to stay with the person, you'd kind of want to leave them because it's hard to date someone probably if their entire face is burned off. Like, it's not like wrong to say that, because I think every human on earth,
That's what we all think.
right. And even though it's like, it's rough to say, I think there's nothing wrong with admitting like, hey, here's kind of a darker side that all of us are. And like, even a new joke I've been doing about my buddy who passed away last year is like, I don't know if you guys had this thought after a close friend dies, but did you think about all the friends you wish had died before them? And that's
What?
yeah, that's how I know if a
man.
crowd's going to be on my side or not, because if they laugh at it, I'm like, that's the bargaining stage of grief. That truly is. That is what that is.
Yeah.
Is you're like, damn, man, why couldn't it have been? And you don't even have a problem with this other person, but it's like, this person's closer to me. And I think that's where it's like, what am I making fun of and what's honest in this? And like, that's why if someone said, and that's why even one time a lady shouted, no, I've never thought that. Then I go, oh, well, you're just a dishonest coward. And the entire crowd went nuts for that. Because sometimes I think they're like, am I allowed to laugh at that? And it's like, no, it's fine. Because at least from my perspective, I'm like, I've thought about this joke enough to know that this is a human relatable thing. And while it may be a dark subject like death or like our vanity of like, God, I don't want to date, you know what I mean? It's like, it is something that I feel like every person can relate to, even if they're like, I don't want to admit to that, but he's not wrong, you know? Mm-hmm. And so I think
You're
that's
questioning the audience's opinion on it then, in a sense.
and kind of their honesty of like, hey,
Yeah.
are you guys like open to stuff that, and that's why I talk about therapy with like intrusive thoughts. It's like, hey, the bargaining stage of grief, which I didn't realize that's what that bit was until my therapist told me. He's like, oh no, that's like all that is he's like, I have friends and family who whisper that to me, but it's like, that's part of it. It's acceptance, denial, all that stuff. And it's not in a linear thing. And that's kind of, I guess that's the point of it. Like, as long as I can defend it saying like, here's what I'm making fun of. It's not just a flippant joke about death. Here's the deeper point. Here's something I think you can acknowledge at least. And if they still don't choose to, then I can't control that. But that's kind of something I've also learned to accept is like, if they get offended, I can't control that. As long as I can control where I'm coming from and what I'm trying to say, that's all I can do. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think that's where you can find that the whole difference of just like I'll say a joke I did when I was first starting out, because that was when I was just trying to like be all, ooh, I'm so edgy, bro. You know, and that's something you grow out of, I think, too. But it was a bit about how like, you know, like Helen Keller got signs on her hand, like through touch and all that. Already you can tell where this is going. It's not going to be a great spot. But like, I was like, do you think the first time she had sex, she thought it was just like a longer sign? Or it was like, damn, man, this guy really wants to let me know that I didn't like his pie. Right. But
That's
I've stopped.
horrible.
I didn't do, I learned. That's the point. So how many subscribers have you lost just after I said that?
We gained like 20.
Oh, wow.
Hey,
Okay.
Yeah, keep it up.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Yeah. Shock humor.
unlike that guy at the Lincoln Lodge who got mad about the erectile dysfunction bit. Keep it up. Yeah, but like that's where it's like, okay, that's just making fun of her and her. There's no like deeper thing there. That's just kind of like
Right.
saying a fucked up thing to say a fucked up thing.
Right.
And I think that's the difference. Is like, what am I actually making fun of here? And again, that's like, I can't really defend that joke afterwards. If someone's like, I was offended, I'd be like, yeah, I mean, that's kind of a fucked up joke, and that's it. Like, there's nothing deeper there. And so that's kind of something that I had to learn through. And that's why I give grace to younger comics who do shit like that, because I'm like, I used to be like that. I had to learn that I have to make a better joke. It can't be like the audience's fault for just not whatever. It's like, no, it's on me to make a better joke that if someone is upset, I can at least say afterwards, here's what I'm going for.
You have to
know?
justify it.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Like, or just, yeah, I mean, just say, like, that's not my target, is to be flippant about death, to be flippant about, like, someone being in a horrific accident. It's like, here's what I'm going for. Mm-hmm. And if you still are offended, I can't, yeah, that's totally fine too. You know, I think that's where also I just get, we were talking about this beforehand, but I'm like, I kind of get annoyed by comics who kind of are like, dude, you can't say anything anymore. It's like, no, you can. Just own it if you're going to do it too. That's the other thing. Own it.
Yeah.
And that's where I think a lot of comics, they like, you know, they're like, why can't they just accept it? It's like, no, dude, you have to accept that they're not. It's like, it's a give and take. Mm-hmm. You can't be offended by them being offended. So it's like, if they're offended, now you're getting offended. It's like, no, just accept it. They didn't like the joke. That's fine.
And how do you react to that crowd that doesn't accept it? You got to have a backup line for that too, you know?
I kind of just like,
You got to approach that subject at all platforms, all point of views.
Well-
which makes the art of the comic so much more fun too, because you need to look at it from so many different sides.
yeah. Well,
Depending-
that's the thing. Like, you can't be like, oh, I'm going to do this race joke unless there are people of that race in the crowd. It's like, all right, that's probably not a good joke if you're scared of who's in the crowd. Like, it should be a good enough joke that it works with anyone, even if it is about a sensitive subject. And that's where I'm like, if you feel uncomfortable, that means it's probably something that's a little, you need to work on it more. So that way it can, but like, if a crowd doesn't like my set, a lot of times too, just because I know where I'm coming from, and if I can see some people want to laugh, but they feel uncomfortable because other people aren't. I mean, my go-to is just being like, hey, for those who want to laugh, just know you're in the right. You're a good time. These people suck. Don't let them ruin your good time tonight. And then whoever has been sitting there cross-armed, the rest of the crowd kind of loosens up and starts laughing, then that person has a miserable time, which is really my goal, is to force one person who's a buzzkill to realize there's a reason they don't get invited to parties. I mean, I brought that up in my special where it's like, hey, just know dark comedy's for fun people. Because I think that is also like, everyone does joke in a kind of fucked up fashion with their friend, and like knowing full well the person doesn't mean it too. That's the other thing, is making sure the audience knows where you're coming from is not a hateful or like you don't understand the gravity of what you're talking about.
The intent of the joke.
Yeah, that's where set structure matters, where it's like, if I need to let them know who I am right away, because if I don't, I can't get away with that thing later. If I establish my personality and who I am and then go from there, which is why, like, honestly, it sounds weird, but like, I generally start off with the stuff about my dead friend to be like, hey, I just joked about something that's like as personal as it gets for me, so I don't want to hear any, you know, like whining about shit if it's like something that is close to you, as long as, like, again, I have made sure that my point is valid and what I'm saying is like a universal truth. It's not being flippant, talking about it for the sake of talking about it. So it's weird to open up talking about death and stuff, but like, it is a great way though to get the audience to be like, oh yeah, all right, man, this guy just like talked about something that like was super serious to him and he's trying to find humor in it. So that kind of gives me a little bit of grace going forward too, you know?
Yeah.
And I feel like also if I start off with like super light stuff and then I get into dark, they're going to be like, wait, what just happened? We were like enjoying that, and then you just went in like a weird. And that way, if I do light stuff later, they're like, oh yeah, well this is fun too, you know. Yeah, I don't know. That's my philosophy of comedy.
Hit him with the hardcore first, you know?
Oh yeah, man. You do the Mike Tyson. Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face, so you punch the audience in the face,
And then
they
later
kinda,
on, it's all like, all right, this is soft.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Now, where do you find the most inspiration when you come up with new material? Do you think most, because I'll agree with you if you'd say this, that a lot of comedy starts in a really dark place. A lot of comics I know have come from a traumatic background or had some weird thing happen in their life that makes them a little bit different filtered. Where for you do you find the best humor, and where do you find the best writing material? And what's your writing process?
I mean, I just have a thought and then riff into my phone. So like, you know, if I just like happen to think of something, I'm like, oh, that'd be a good bit. I just will riff and improvise in my phone until I feel like it's finished, and then pare down from there. So a lot of bits, they'll start off as like 3-minute bits, and I'm like, okay, this part doesn't work, toss that, or rewrite it, one of the two. And then like when I'm on stage and I'm like going through it, you know, when you're in the moment on stage, you may riff something that then like, oh, I can keep. Oh, I didn't even like think about. I just had that happen with a joke I've been doing for about probably like 8 or 9 months or whatever. And then recently I was hosting over at the Comedy Plex, which, by the way, that is an awesome club in Oak Park. I just want to give them a shout out because it rules. It's such a good club. But I was riffing about just how, I mean, this joke's so innocuous. That's why it's so funny. I have a lot of the dark stuff, but it's like about doing, or how in the NBA there's trash talk, and how like it's always trying to get inside someone's head, but they always go after confidence, and how there should be unsettling trash talk to get inside someone's heads, where it's like a guy's guarding someone, he just goes, I think my sister's hot. The guy's like, what? And then he steals the ball. And then a riff, and I've been doing that joke for like 8 months, and then a riff I had was like, the next time down, that guy's going to be like, here, just take it, and that dude will lead the league in steals. And that worked, and now it's been working, and it's like, oh man, a joke is kind of never finished, and you can always find something. So I think as long as you like write something, but you never, that's why I don't write anything down by hand, because I'm like, I don't want to feel attached to a script. So I know what I'm going to say, and then like, I build, like, the bit I have about erectile dysfunction was like 30 seconds long when I first wrote it, and now it's like 2.5 because of just riffing off of stuff and the way the audience reacts to it. So like it can start one way, it can start 30 seconds long, get to 2.5, or start 3 minutes and then get pared down to like 1.5 minutes. But like definitely I just love riffing, and I feel like all the best moments people come up with are on the spot rather than like trying to do something rehearsed. So if you kind of keep yourself loose and not tied to any certain words, I think you'll always have room to like, a joke can always be evolving, changing, adding, subtracting. If you get tired of a bit, just change a few words just so it feels fresh. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Everyone's different, man. I always hear comics be like, hey, do you want to go sit down and write together? And I'm like, what do you mean, just stare at our notebooks and just like sit there? It doesn't make sense to me. Like my buddy, who's a very funny comic, his name's Drew Gregory, but him and I are totally opposite. Like he'll sit with a notebook and just try and think of something. I'm like, that, I can't even imagine just sitting down and being like, all right, I don't have an idea for anything. I guess I'll write about squirrels for a bit. You know what I mean? So it just doesn't make sense to me. It's like, I feel like everyone has thoughts that are like, oh, that's kind of funny. That's why, that's why a lot of people try stand-up. Not everyone's like successful at it, but a lot of people try it because they have a thought they think is funny. Then they go home, they rehearse in front of a mirror multiple times with a hairbrush or whatever they use for a microphone. And then it's not till you get on stage that you realize like, oh, damn, it is so hard to sell this here in this environment. That's why I think like confidence on stage matters so much more than like a well-written joke, which I prefer really good writers, but I see people who it's like, it's not even like that great a joke, but they are selling the shit out of that. And it's like, you know, confidence is probably the hardest thing to have to overcome, is going on stage and not being sheepish, like, you know, shuffling your feet, being like, so what else? Like you tell your joke half-assedly, your voice is shaking. Like that's the harder part to get over, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How do you sell a good joke?
I think you just have to like, you have to also be willing to bomb with it when you're writing new stuff, which is like the hardest thing. Like when I was working on this new hour, I'd go to Laugh Factory. I was using stuff from the previous special, and I had new stuff, but I'm not going to do all new. So I'm like, because I have an obligation to the club too to do well. So it's like, I do mostly old stuff that I know works, and it's like, all right, put that new one in there. And I wouldn't sell it as well, but I'd watch my set being like, oh, I just need to sell that better and just have confidence in it. And then slowly but surely you build that confidence doing that joke over and over. But you just have to be comfortable with it not going well initially, you know, and just feeling confident or pretending you're confident in it. And that'll take a second. But yeah, that's all you can do is fake it too until you actually do feel good.
Earlier you said you had an obligation to the venue to make good jokes and stuff.
Oh yeah, to do well, yeah.
To do well, all right. How do you manage doing how do you manage doing well for the venues?
I think just as long as you're doing jokes you feel solid in overall, and then you have an obligation to yourself to keep experimenting and trying new stuff, which I do think also the club appreciates if you're like not doing the same 10 minutes and the audience, because they have a lot of regulars, you know. Same with like Comedians You Should Know, the show that I run with a few buddies. It's like, yeah, I have an obligation to this audience who are regulars to give them something different. And that means I have to take the chance, fail with a bit, riff off it, it fails. So the obligation is to the show to make sure you do enough jokes that go well, but then to yourself and to the regular audience members to give them something different also. So it's like a weird balance you have to play. So it's like, I would say the most I'll ever do is like 30% new stuff, 70% solid, just to make sure that overall it's a good experience for the crowd.
Is there like a process you go through to choosing the new stuff that you try for your audience?
And how early do you do that?
So like, I would say it starts open mics, do it at like 5 or so. And if a joke is hitting at open mics where it's generally pretty rough, for the audience, if you've never been to an open mic, it's like a punishment in most countries. So just, I think now they're making Bashir al-Assad do open mic hosting from now on after getting deposed. But then after a few open mics, if you feel like it's gone well enough, because it's hard to judge in those environments, obviously, you then have a few independent shows that you try it out when it's like a good enough crowd, and you're like, I want to do well for the show, but also I feel like there's a good crowd to really get a barometer. And especially like if your good jokes are hitting, then it's like, now I have to see if this joke levels up to that. And if it doesn't, that means it still needs work. If it does, then it's like, all right, man, let's keep going with it now until we start to really feel good about it. And then slowly but surely, those jokes become the ones that you're like, man, that's like now part of my set, whether it's 10, 15. I think in longer sets too, when you're headlining, then you get that ability to be like, all right, I can have like a 3-minute lull and it'll be fine. I have material to back it up. That's why longer sets make it a little bit easier to try stuff out as opposed to if you're doing 10 or 15 at like an independent show or at Laugh Factory or whatever, that like you kind of have to make sure you're pretty on top of it, because a 3-minute lull in a 10-minute set feels long. In a 45-minute set, people forget about it and all they remember is the other 40 minutes that were, it's like the inverse of like Rick Springfield concert where it's like Jesse's Girls, that 3 minutes you want. And then I don't know what else he does. Is there another Rick Springfield song?
It's the only one I know.
Yeah, is there anything else? Dude, that's why it's unfair. Musicians get to do one hit, and they can, like, he still tours.
Do it for years.
If I could just have, like, that one good joke and just do that and have the rest of the 50 minutes be people, like, doing a beer run during it.
So, you've been a comedian for, like, a couple years now. What's like something you would tell the newer comedians? Like, how would you get them to engage with the audience, like as a newer comedian? Because you probably have some jokes that people are wanting to hear.
Yeah,
probably, right? As a newer comedian, like, you don't know the jokes that you want to hear from them. What is something you would tell them to have more, like, to have a longer stage time?
I would say have fun when you're up there, and it's hard to do because you're nervous and you want to do well. But I know that the sets I've had the worst time at are when I'm focused on doing well and not like, I'm going to go up there and have a good time. And I think when you're focused on the results rather than the experience you're going to have on stage, and if you love the jokes you tell, you're going to have fun regardless of the reaction. Not all the way, but like if you tell jokes that you love and you're like, you know what, if I were watching, I'd like this. And if, a decent amount of the crowd enjoys it, then I hit with people that I want to, bring in to my sphere. I think that having fun is so crucial, and it's a thing I think a lot of comics forget, because then they start focusing on, I need to get a Tonight Show, I need to get this, that, or the other, and it's like, all right, but hang on, are you actually even enjoying this anymore? Because if you're so focused on the goals, and then when you go on stage, you're like focused on doing well to the point that you're not even having fun when you're doing well, which I had hit that. That's why I quit stand-up for like a year and a half, because I was like, I'm not even having fun when I'm doing well, because I was just doing jokes I was doing jokes that I didn't care about. They weren't really reflective of. But
you were doing well.
Yeah, but it was all like safer stuff, because I was trying to get booked, and if you're clean, you get booked more. And I was like, this isn't appealing to me. And so
you were doing well, but it wasn't something that you liked.
Yeah, and that's why I think it's like important to remember that this is meant to be fun.
It's meant to be for you.
Yeah.
Or the in general.
And the people who are like you. Like, you'd imagine, unless you're a real, true psychopath, you relate to... Yeah. Like, if Dahmer did stand-up, I feel like it hit weird. It's like, man, I tell you, certain muscles taste chewy, don't you think? But
what if the guy that killed that CEO did stand-up?
Honestly, dude, that guy is going to have the closest thing to a Joker trial than we will ever see.
Yeah,
that's what we were just talking about.
Yeah. Do you really? That's what I'm saying. Like, people are going to be cheering for that dude when he goes to the courtroom. It's going to be wild.
So wild.
Shit, man.
I had this thought with every. I did have one question for you though, real quick about your stand-up, and we could get back to this guy real quick. With your stand-up,
hot assassin.
I'm just saying, trying to shoot you down, baby. Yeah. With your material, with your goal, where you see yourself 5 years down the line, do you think coming up with new material, recording that material, letting it lay to rest, and then coming up with new material, is that your goal? Because you have a new special coming up that you got planned, right?
Yeah, I'm planning on taping another one next year. And honestly, it's more about where I want to put jokes, where they fit, and where callbacks are, where the structure is, what's the best way to like have it hit the whole way through, which is weird because it's like not something you think about when you're starting out, but it's like, oh no, it matters what order I tell these jokes in. Mm-hmm. And that's something that is like probably one of the harder things to learn. It's like, no, I can't just like open up. I mean, I guess I have been opening up with a kind of a dark joke, but it has to be something that like they can relate to, And so I think it's like about building trust with the crowd. Then once they trust you, how do you vary your pattern enough that they're not catching on? So it's like there are certain comics, if you watch them for 15 to 20 minutes, you're like, all right, I know where this joke's going. You're doing all misdirection bits here. So you have to figure out a way to make sure that you're staying like 5 steps ahead of the crowd. They're like, oh, damn, man, this guy's really like throwing me for a loop, and I'm 30 minutes into this, And I mean, the biggest compliment I've ever gotten paid is that people were like, so what'd you do, like 20 minutes? I'm like, no, I did like 50. And they're like, whoa, it didn't. And that's where it's like, if it doesn't feel that long to them, that is the biggest compliment that you can give a comic is like, oh shit, I was just like enjoying that. I didn't even realize it was that short.
It's a lot of time to fill up.
Dude, it's fun though
lot
when it's
of
going
time.
well. When it's going poorly, it's like, damn man, when do I get to leave this pizzeria? that I'm
Yeah, it's
performing
kind of the same. Like I'm a musician, so like when you're doing well on stage, it's like 30 minutes is like fucking. It feels like 5. But
Yeah.
When you're doing terrible on stage, like fucking 30 minutes feels
Dude,
like 3 hours.
it's
bro.
the worst. It's the
It's
worst.
literally the worst.
Yeah. And that's why when I say like love your jokes, it's so that way at least even if you bomb, you are bombing on your terms and not bombing with stuff you hate. So it's like a double whammy of like, well, I told jokes I don't care about and they didn't like me. It's like I might as well be myself and enjoy at least what I'm saying. And then also if you have enough test runs, like these jokes go well like 90% of the time. That crowd just hated me. I'm not for everybody. That's something also I had to learn was like, I'm not for everybody for sure. And I had to learn like that's okay because I just want to be myself on stage. And I will take there being nights where people just think I'm offensive or whatever if it means that I'm hitting with people who I want to be my audience. I forget what was the question again though, because there was something else I thought you asked. But
You were preparing for another special coming up. I was wondering,
Oh.
do you build up your set for an entire special? Because your specials are over 45 minutes. I was watching one that was an hour.
yeah,
56 minutes.
56 minutes. Do you build up that entire set and then let it later rest and come up with new material?
Yeah.
Do you and then
and then just bury it, you know. And I think
maybe bring it back for certain occasions?
yeah,
Or,
and that's where it's like where I see myself in 5 years. I just I hope it's in a better spot than now, obviously. But that's something I feel like as long as you just go like, hey, I can't control where I end up, except I can do the work towards it, writing new stuff, releasing specials, emailing clubs, emailing, whatever. And that's all I can do is that. I can't control where I end up. All I can control is how hard I work to get to where I want. And so I think when you just focus on that, and it's like, all I need to do is just do work, and wherever I end up, I'm cool with it as long as I'm enjoying what I'm doing, So
where would you like to be in 5 years?
Thailand, I'm sorry, that was just me pretending to be a sick fuck who wants to go there for all the wrong reasons.
Lady boy.
Passport, bro.
Dude, I heard the movie.
Passport, bro.
I heard the movie Hostel is based on a place that really existed in Thailand, where you could pay someone $10K to walk into a room and shoot someone in the face.
Sheesh.
Well, if you go out like on the black market, you can pay someone $10K and shoot anybody anywhere in the world.
Wait, what?
Black market.
Jay, you're gonna get us on a list, bro.
Yeah.
That's okay. We're already on a bunch of lists.
We might be on
anyways.
a couple lists.
Yeah.
Naughty list is not one of them.
Well, hey man, now we can talk about that shooter who.
Yeah, sorry, I did not mean to veer. I wanted to get down to that.
Yeah.
But what do y'all think about that? Because that's such a wild
The
Mr.
CEO shooter, man.
Mr. Luigi.
Dude, I feel like a lot of us, man. So do you guys know the story behind it? So pretty much like
He
Remind
went
the
to
viewers.
Yale and shit, right?
the
Is it
CEO
Harvard?
that he killed.
Yes.
Yeah, Ivy League
pretty
guy,
much
yeah.
denied his mother treatment for her cancer or something like that, right? So like I'm thinking about it like, yo, like some guy denied my mother treatment for cancer. He pretty much killed my mother. So what the fuck am I gonna do now? I'm gonna take revenge. Now, a lot of people don't agree.
Can I ask a question real quick? What was the whole like spinal injury thing? Was that his injury?
That was his personal.
That was his,
yeah.
and they were insurance wasn't
Yeah.
covering his.
I
So I kept seeing that. I was like, what? Why is that?
And that's why I think because everyone has that. I mean, my aunt had the similar experience where she had an HMO that refused to like pay for to see a specialist or whatever because she had breast cancer, and then when she finally got to see someone out of network when she could afford it, it was like, oh well. Unfortunately, it's metastasized. So I think everyone is kind of like that's why it's like so hard to feel sympathy when it's like, dude,
Right.
you've probably like killed a lot of people by just trying to make more money. And I think everyone has that experience, which is why it's like it's a really weird feeling of like you never want to wish ill will on someone, but then there is that part of you that's like that vengeance, like kind of, that whole got what you deserve thing,
Eat the rich.
Yeah, dude, for real.
Eat
I mean,
the
that's why
rich.
that guy, he needs to wear a clown mask to trial. He is
Right.
going to have
You're right, though. That's the closest thing to a Joker trial we're ever going to see, where so many people revolve around him and support him. And it's such a weird thing because, and I had this thought earlier today about it, is that if you want to talk about that whole trial and everything going on, if you want to talk about P. Diddy and Jay-Z, and you want to talk about the Hawk Tuah girl having the pump and dump Bitcoin scheme.
Dude, that was insane.
All of these things, it's the voice of the people that are revolting against the higher ups, which is such a wild thing that like all of these, that's the main essential thing, is that like it's the voice of the oppressed that is coming to light, you know?
It is crazy to think about that. It's like, wow, we can all just unite around like rich people going down, you know?
But it's really not crazy to think about. Like, it's been a thing that we could have been doing for a long time, just nobody does it. Everyone's really afraid of like, hey.
Not that we're encouraging it. No. Violence is not the answer.
I'm not encouraging violence. I'm encouraging.
That is our on-air stance.
Yeah.
That's
let's get
definitely
to how we really feel.
I do not encourage violence at all. Like, I do not think that what the CEO killer did was right at all.
But he shook up the system.
But he definitely got people talking, for example. You know what I mean? Like, there's definitely things that we could do that's way better that doesn't involve hurting anybody. But there's definitely things that we can do to make sure these things don't happen. Like,
it is weird though, because like when you think about like the Revolutionary War, right? And it's like, man, the first person to like kind of revolt against the British, do you think they were like, hey man, violence ain't the answer? It's
not
like,
at all.
No.
Like, I'm gonna kill him, motherfucker.
Yeah. Because it's a weird, like, you know, like what's the French one, Bastille Day or whatever, where people like went and just, you know, killed a bunch of rich folks. And it's like, we look at it as like a historic thing, and then it's like something happens in our time that we're like, oh, I don't think you're supposed to kill people. But then it's like all these historic events involved killing. Even the Alamo we were talking about, it's like, we think about it because it's like, damn, they killed a bunch of people and there was only a few of them. And because it's not like present, just in the past, we're like, oh yeah, I guess for that time it's fine. And now we're like in this time where it's like just weird to think about that. It's like, oh yeah, a lot of historic moments probably involve someone having to get shot or killed or whatever.
Well, talking about this case specifically, like, think about the amount of people that this CEO has like not directly killed, but like through his decisions and through his like wanting to make more money for his company. Right. The amount of people that he's probably killed, right? Like think about it, like Hitler, for example. Like, he didn't kill anybody directly. Hitler, you know,
Hitler. I hardly knew her.
Yeah.
But his ideas killed, you know, a shit ton of people. That's why he's bad. You know what I mean? And so it's like the same thing with these CEOs, and not just that CEO, a bunch of other CEOs that are probably like fucking.
They're all shitting in their britches right now.
Fuck these people. Fuck these poor people. Like, is it gonna make me money? No, it's not.
I would like to think the CEOs are scared now. You know,
yeah.
I would love
Arizona
to
iced tea. He's safe,
but most likely
keeps it under 99 cents.
Arizona, dude.
Yeah.
I will defend the Arizona iced tea.
That guy's
yeah, the Costco guy, right? Didn't the Costco guy say something like, "You're raising the hot dog prices over my dead body" or something?
Right. Ben and Jerry's, you know.
There's some badass CEOs.
Those are the guys that I want to fucking defend.
Right.
But, like,
but when it comes to your fifth yacht, it's like, nah, I'd rather have a little bit of health care or a little bit of lower prices or be able to afford medicine. And, you know, with the whole thing about the CEO with the United Insurance is that it's such it's what do you call it when a bunch of rats get in a hole and all their tails tie together, and I think it's called a rat knot. I think that's just what it's called. A rat knot or a rat hole. Essentially what it is when all of these issues become a thing and they're all kind of locked together.
Yeah.
And it's not just the insurance. It is the insurance. It's a big part of it, but it's also big pharma. It's also medical companies that are charging way too much for different practices. It's also people just not taking care of themselves. It's so many things that are kind of interwebbed together that like the whole thing's just a shit show.
It's just a giant rats having their tails be all knotted up together.
That's what it is, right? I mean, that's what it is. It's a rat knot.
What do you guys think the solution to all this is? Is there a solution?
I'm sure there is. I'm just not smart enough to. That's where, like, with this stuff, it's like I know what the right thing is. I just don't know how to accomplish it.
They're not paying me to fucking figure this shit out.
Yeah. I'm just not intelligent. Like, I mean, all the ins and outs of like healthcare. I'm just like, dude, I already struggle enough figuring out my own and what I get and what I don't, and then why something gets denied out of nowhere. You know what I mean? So it's
Right.
like,
Why even bother having it?
yeah, dude, there's so many times. I mean, car insurance too, I've been having an issue with where I'm just like, why am I paying y'all so much? This seems a little insane. I feel like I've just been making a charitable donation to Allstate and Geico over the past few years.
If you get shot right now and call an ambulance, that's $8,000, bro.
Yeah.
Just for the ride.
Just for the ride,
It's an
dude.
expensive lift.
And that's why I pay extra. Yeah. Dude, I tried to get an ambulance on the way over here. They would not pick me up. But like, yeah, man, I do a PPO.
You
even
pay
though-
enough in taxes for it. You should.
Yeah.
You know?
But like I pay a lot for health insurance for the very reason that if something goes wrong, it's money well spent.
Right.
But then also it's like, man, I've been kind of, but I mean, again, I just stay overnight in the hospital a few years ago, and it was worth it to have my copay be $500 because you stay overnight, that is expensive, and it was worth it to be like, oh, I just owe $500, and this would be like 10 grand or something insane like that.
Now, what about the people that don't have health insurance? Like, how
I heard
do
a
they
lot of
get
times
around?
they just don't pay because it's not feasible and it hurts their credit. But it's like, what are they gonna do? Just collection agencies and they just don't pay. But I heard that's why healthcare is expensive too.
It's true,
'cause it's
but
like-
then it fucks them up in a lot of other ways. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, now our credit's bad because I had a fucking injury 5 fucking months ago. So like, what the fuck, you know? what
And
I
that
mean?
keeps you down for life. You know what I mean? Like
Exactly,
some
you know what I
people
mean?
just go into bankruptcy through.
Yeah.
through
But then,
injuries.
like, I've also heard cases where, like, if you had free health insurance, for example, in Canada, you gotta like wait
But see,
9 months to fucking get seen. You
there's
know what
part
I
of
mean?
me that's like okay with that in the sense that it's like, yeah, but why should someone who's rich or like someone who has money get to go ahead of someone who does? It's like, yeah, we all wait our turn. That's just how it is. You know, it's like that seems more fair than it's like, no, I have more money, so I'm gonna get this procedure before you. And it's like, oh, that kind of seems messed up. It's like, yeah, you have to wait.
It does seem messed up. It's really messed up. But at the same time, what if you had a lot of money? Wouldn't you be like, all right, now I want to pay a lot of money and I'll go before these people just because I can pay more?
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. That's why it's like it's just like
time is money,
It's
baby.
it's a
Time is
very
money.
tricky situation, man.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I disagree with both fucking rounds because I don't feel like if you have more money, you should be able to go before me. But at the same time, like if I'm suffering through some shit, like
Unless you're like bleeding out of the heart. You know what I mean? I
But
always heard that if you're at a
who's-
hospital waiting and they're like, at least you're not the guy who's getting like immediate treatment
yeah.
right now.
I also
It's like-
do wait. Whenever I've had to go to the hospital, I still have had to like if I've broken something or had an infection, I've still had to wait like hours to
it's
like
because
you know like.
you weren't willing to pay $1,000 trillion to get seen right away.
No, I think, but that's about urgency, isn't it?
Yeah,
Like,
that is
yeah.
an urgency factor. Treatment is maybe different.
Yeah.
But yeah, the ER is. That's
But I
its
thought
own
I heard
thing.
something that like rich folks, they'll like register addresses where the shortest wait is for organ donations, and it's like that seems fucked up that you get to jump the line because you have money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because now someone doesn't get it because they're poor, and it's like, see, that's where it's like, I don't. If someone's poor and they're just in front of me, they're in front of me, man. It's like at Six Flags.
Right.
I guess that also you get to jump the line there if you
I
have
was
the
gonna
money.
say if you have more
get the-
money,
you get the fast pass.
Or if you're in a wheelchair.
So like,
yeah.
Yeah.
there's a very tricky line to draw. You know what I mean? Because like, let's say
Right.
we all had a lot of money. Guess what? We would all be paying the same amount of shit to get treated right away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the wealth gap's biggest at Six Flags. And that's what I'm
Once
fighting.
that came along,
When I run for office, which will be next year, it'll be all about Six Flags and Six Flags policy only. Get rid of the fast pass. Everyone waits the same amount of time.
that's the most Texas thing you've said all day.
Egalitarian Six Flags policy.
I love it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about guns. Just kidding.
Dude, well, where I'm from, yeah, Jesus.
So,
Wow.
where are you from? Houston?
That's where I grew up, yeah.
You grew
So
up
I
in
grew up in
Houston?
Houston. I was born in Boston, raised in Houston. Then I went to high school in like a suburb here, Naperville.
Neighbor.
Dude, and
That's
this
the
is
rich
what,
suburbs.
yeah, that is, yeah. Dude, and this is what I didn't realize. So in Houston, right, high school hazing is like a huge deal.
Is it?
So when my folks were figuring out where to live and Neuqua Valley was like a brand new school, they didn't have seniors. I'm like, oh, can I go there so I wouldn't get hazed? And then I found out that's like not a thing up here, really, like high school hazing.
Here in Chicago, no.
Yeah. And so I was like, well, that's crazy. Because like Dazed and Confused is based on Houston for a reason. That shit happens and it's intense. So I was like terrified of high school. And then when I got here, I strictly asked my folks, like, for the love of God, can we go to this new school so I won't get the shit kicked out of me? And then I just found out that's not even like real up here. People paddle, they do crazy stuff to freshmen. You really do have to hide. Like, y'all have seen Dazed and Confused, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's it's based in reality, dude.
The worst we've gotten here in Chicago high schools is like we get like batteries thrown at us.
That's pretty rough.
You got batteries thrown at you?
Sure, it's high school, baby.
Ouch.
Chicago public high schools, baby. Y'all
it
ever
have
been
to do-
Chicago public high schools?
Was that hazing, or was that you were in a?
That was just like a tradition that like all the seniors did to the freshmen. We just get batteries thrown at us.
wait, and like
You get battery.
band?
batteries.
They should charge him for battery.
Like double D or whatever the fuck, the big guys.
Double D. Were they shaped like bras?
Double D's will knock you out.
They were shaped like really big batteries. I mean, I would love a double D's in my face, but
On a
triple
calculator.
A's, wherever the fuck. Oh, dude, boobies on calculators.
Hottest thing.
Want a motor built my TI calculator?
Yeah.
But dude, like, so a lot of the freshmen, we'd wear our IDs on our fucking necklaces just because we thought it was the cool thing to do, and that's how the seniors knew that we were fucking freshmen. They were like, "Oh, they're wearing their fucking IDs."
What, is this in band class or what?
There was still hazing here.
Yeah, this was Chicago Public High School.
But it was band, like where you said the singers knew you were freshmen.
No, the seniors.
Oh, seniors. I thought you
Yeah.
said singers. I'm like, damn, is this band kids hazing?
No, the band.
They do a lot of
The
hazing.
band hazing was worse.
See what they do with the flutes.
yeah.
And when I was in band camp. But anyways, so like during lunchtime, like whoever was wearing the freshman IDs or whatever, you get all the seniors or even like the juniors, they just start throwing shit at you, and you have to grab your like your little lunch tray and try to like hide.
Sheesh.
Yeah, that sounds pretty awful.
Chicago public high schools, man.
They were tough. There's still hazing out here. I got hazed too.
Oh, okay, all right. So it's not like like crazy that I thought. Yeah.
Yeah, not as glorified as Dazed and Confused, but to a minor scale. I remember I went to a Catholic high school, and we had to wear like shirts with the tie and everything. And a lot of times, if somebody had like a front pocket, they would just rip the front pocket, like clean off your shirt, and be like, "No pockets allowed in the hallway." Or there was a thing that they called it the fag tag, where it was like the little, that little thing in the back of your shirt where like you can like hang it up on a hanger or whatever. If somebody saw that little tag, they would go up and rip it off. And I've seen freshmen get their shirts clean ripped off. And if they didn't have an undershirt under, they'd just be bare bone the rest of the day.
That's terrible.
It was a thing.
What do you think the teachers would be like? Hey, you get to go home because you have. You mean they had to finish the day with just nothing on their back?
I'm sure they had extras. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Here's one from gym class.
In
Someone
Chicago
left.
public high schools, we would go into school with water bottles full of vodka, and the teachers would let us finish the whole school day just like that.
They knew about it?
I mean, the kids. You, as a high school student, drinking a couple shots of vodka with a little water bottle, you would be
They
pretty
would probably
fucked up.
calm them down.
You would, like, the teachers would know that you were fucked up.
But
I
like-
was
Crazy.
pretty.
See, I was a loser in high school. I didn't drink or do anything like that. So, like my
Chicago
weekends,
public high schools,
Yeah.
baby. So
my-
my school, our old principal, before they got fired, they paid off a
I
bunch.
wonder why they got fired.
Well, this is why they got fired. They paid off a bunch of gangbangers to not come to school.
Oh shit.
Oh,
Well,
So
I mean,
wise investment, maybe.
yeah, I know.
So Chicago, baby, sure is high school. This is pretty much every like Chicago public high school back in the day. To be honest with you,
Yeah. There was a lot. Did you ever experience any hazing at all? I mean,
No, not in Naperville. Not in
because you didn't have any.
The
I was gonna
hazing
say
was just
Naperville.
the hazing was just seeing kids driving around in like new Jeeps. I was like, damn, okay,
Right.
yeah.
Have you guys ever heard of a poo dollar before?
Dude, I performed at the gathering of the Juggalos.
Oh.
Did they do that? Did they do that?
They did that at my high school
Oh,
a lot of
okay.
times. Are you familiar with the poo dollar?
no.
So somebody would go to the bathroom and take a shit in $1, and then they would like leave it in the hallway or the breezeway or whatever, and somebody would pass by, see $1 on the ground, they'd pick it up, stick it in their pocket, and their pocket's full of shit. It's a poo dollar.
Well, yeah, the Juggalos do that too. They wipe their ass with dollars.
All
I
right,
feel
so-
like if it's a turd, you must know it as you pick it. It's like, man, this dollar's heavy.
Bottom dollar to pick it up. I want to know, what is your bottom dollar? What
Oh, how
face
much?
for you
Dude.
to pick it up, clean it up, and say, "Hey, I'll just."
When
reuse
I was
this."
performing at the Juggalos, my opening riff was like, yeah, I know you guys wipe your ass with them. I need money. So I paid for my entire lunch with poopy dollars. Like,
Oh my god.
so no, but I mean,
I hope you wash your hands,
no,
bro.
I'm kidding. I didn't actually do that, but I mean, it was
No,
great.
he's not
Like that was
kidding.
like, dude, that was the first thing the staff said to me. They're like, "You ever been here before?" And I was like, "Oh no." And they were like, "Okay, well, just don't pick up a $1 bill if you see it on the ground." They wipe their ass with them and then leave it on the ground. I'm like, damn, dude, this event isn't this already an expensive festival to get into? You know, waste dollars like that.
No, they don't care, bro. So what was
I had
your,
a great time,
Airplane.
by the way. That was
yeah,
like
tell us
so-
about it. What's
Yeah,
what's it
what was
like
your
with the
experience?
Dude, so fun. And it's just like I'm a night owl too, so I was doing like late night shows at I think it was like 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. and I did a stand up thing in front of Zach D'Amico. And that was at 11. And I mean even like last night I wasn't able to fall asleep till like probably like 5. So that's just my schedule. So Gathering the Juggalos was perfect. But the guys were showing me around and literally one of the first things I saw was a show that was at 4 p.m. And we're walking by. We're like, oh, let's see what this is. And it's just a dude getting tased against his bare nuts. And that was the shit. It was just people doing crazy shit. And we were like,
Whoa.
all right, we saw that. That's enough of this show, whatever it is. But the staff was awesome, and the people were super nice, dude. I had some people who followed me afterwards from the festival that messaged me saying, like, hey, we really liked your set. Like, it was like... And that's why I kind of went in knowing, like, I do dark comedy. I can't imagine I'd offend a juggalo.
Right.
It seems like that'd be kind of an impressive feat.
I was gonna say
Challenge
offend a
accepted.
juggalo.
Yeah.
How?
Yeah. So it was so fun, dude. And it was just like, yeah, and it was just like the pageantry of it. Like the way the trees were lit up was cool as hell. It was cool, like walking around seeing the different music shows on so many different stages. And like the staff was awesome. I mean, it was great, man. It was such a fun experience.
All right, bro. Gathering of the Juggalos. That's a freaking crazy event. Like, I've seen enough YouTube videos to know that a lot of crazy shit happens there. What was the one crazy thing that you've witnessed?
Probably the guy getting tased in the nuts, obviously. And then,
Any boofing?
what is boofing?
Boofing? Dude, do you want to look it up? I don't know if I want to tell the internet what boofing is.
I thought, is that just slang for butt fucking
Smoking
or
weed?
no?
Boofing is when you drink things out of your anus. So if
Oh,
you like
I've
boof,
called that butt. I've heard it
or
called
butt
chugging.
chugging.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I feel like boofing, you then have to explain it. Whereas if you just say butt chugging, it's like I got a vibe for what it is. I think I know what that is. No, I saw a lot of people were walking around naked, but it was like, no offense, juggalos, but not the best bodies out there. So that's where they'll
That's
get
pretty
mad
offensive,
at me.
bro.
Yeah, but I mean, I was like, damn, man, y'all. I'm glad you're feeling proud, but
Body positivity,
yeah,
baby.
yeah. That's the one time that I looked away from boobs was at that festival.
Really?
Yeah. But
That's hard to imagine.
yeah. So, but it was cool. I mean,
How
that's
bad were the boobs?
I mean, look, I'm not trying to get Juggalo hate online, but it was kind of like Basset Hound ears, probably is the closest thing to compare it to.
Oh.
Yeah. But I mean, that said, I mean, but that was also cool. It was like a unique experience seeing all these folks just being like loose and fun and having a good time. And like, yeah, that's what it was. It was just fun. And like, I got to watch Insane Clown Posse from like the side stage, watch them perform. And it's
That's cool.
dude, it's cool as hell that their fans are so dedicated to them too. Like they walk around with that Faygo, what's it called? That Detroit drink.
Faygo.
Faygo, yeah.
And they're just like so dedicated to this group. I'm like, honestly, that's kind of the dream, man.
I was
Like
gonna
having
say,
fans
yeah.
that love you that much, and you put on this giant festival every year that they come back for, and it's expensive as hell. When I was looking at tickets, I was like, God damn, man, these juggalos must be coming from. Are they all like Wall Street lawyers or some shit?
Honestly, like some of them are.
Right.
You know what I mean? Some of them are Wall Street lawyers. Some of them are doctors. Some of them are fucking.
And then they boof on the weekends.
people that fucking make really good money, and they're like, well, this is fucking
Family, whoop whoop.
Yeah, they're like,
Yeah.
my job is fucking very fucking stupid, so I'm gonna go have fun on the weekend.
Yeah, dude. I mean, it was like such a good experience, so unique, and like like I said, I'm a night owl, so just having stuff to do at 1 a.m. ruled. Like I was like, oh, I'm not the only one up on this. It's like everyone's up. This is cool as hell. So yeah, and people like camp there. They like live on that festival ground for 5 days.
I was
I'm
gonna
like,
say, how many days is the festival? 5?
I think it's 5
week?
because I remember I got there on a Tuesday for us to do like tech runs,
Mm.
and then because I was playing the Ghost of Kurt Cobain I was like riffing with the Insane Clown Posse. It was so fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and
So you got to see you got to meet Violet and Jay.
yeah,
and
yeah,
fucking-
man. They were super nice, so fun. And I know Colt Cabana, the wrestler, and they like love him.
Oh,
So
shit.
I felt good because he came to see me do stand up too. Because I was a little nervous. I was like, I know that if these people hate me, they're gonna throw feces at me, and I don't look like. That's why my opener was being like, yeah, I got called an undercover cop a ton. It's been great, and that kind of like broke the ice with them. Because I'm like, yeah, I know I don't look like I belong here, but oddly, my sensibilities are pretty close to them. Like I'm a big horror movie fan too. They had this tent that was just for horror movies, and I was like, this is fucking sick, dude. But yeah, like it was just so they were super nice. It was fun to riff with them and just do goofy shit. And like it was just like such an awesome experience, yeah.
Hell yeah, dude.
Dude, it ruled, yeah.
Sounds like you might be suppressing some memories, but that's okay. We don't have to bring them up.
If you remember them, we do have to bring them up.
Yeah, let me think if I can think of anything.
What was like the one like memory that you were just like, fuck, dude, this is the Insane Clown Posse?
Whoop whoop.
Oh, like that was like how awesome it was?
Yeah.
I mean, watching them from the side and seeing their fans just like they were like spraying Faygo, they were all going nuts. Like it's like that is cool as shit.
Were you able to see the amount of fans that were like, watching?
I mean,
them?
it must have been the whole festival.
I was gonna say,
like,
was that like something really cool that you thought were like, oh shit, this could someday be me?
I don't know if I'd have people spraying soda on me.
Whoa,
I do. But like, no, I mean, I do think that's where it's like, that's where being a musician would rule because there's no comedian who could get a crowd going like that.
Whoa,
like you can get them laughing, but they're like going nuts. Like they're jumping, dancing. If people are doing that during your stand-up, something's gone wrong. I think if people are like jumping around dancing while you're telling
Bert Kreischer's doing it right now.
Oh, I guess so. I guess he's someone who would bring that energy level like that. Yeah.
I'm the machine.
Yeah, no, I mean it was funny. My roommate was a Michael Jackson impersonator who was part of the show, so that was interesting. He was from Vegas, so super, super, just weird experience. But
Under what circumstances would you take your clothes off on stage?
oh, for the I didn't take my.
No, under what circumstances would you?
Oh, for like if I did the shows with Insane Clown Posse again, probably wouldn't take much. Like I said, $2, not a big deal to me. Pay for a lunch at Olive Garden with it, get naked. That's what they wanted. They were welcoming. Dude, I mean, like the staff, like I said, they were awesome. Like the people who work for them are fucking so cool, so nice, so welcoming. So it was like, yeah, it was just great. It was just like
I feel like they're just like regular people like you and me. I feel like everybody else, like outside the little whatever, has like a very big misconception that everybody like.
Yeah, and I think also probably back in the day they were wilder. I think
for
that
sure.
also,
Oh, for
you know what I
sure,
mean?
for
Like
sure,
it
yeah.
probably was crazy back in the day, but now it's like everyone's like, "Hey, we're just here to have a good time, man. This is a crazy fun experience."
Everybody that went there back in the day when they were younger are probably now older now, and they're just like,
That's the other thing. There are tons of juggalos in their like 40s and shit. Like I mean, Violent J. Yeah, I mean they both are older too.
I was gonna say
know?
like yeah, like them themselves are like. When I was like a fan of like the Juggalos, like they were already like in their 30s. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So like yeah, I mean it was and when I was in high school, they were popular for some kids, but those are the kids I was scared of in high school. But then as I've gotten older, oddly, I've matured. I've become more prone to being a juggalo. I've had the opposite maturation process where I've become closer and closer to being a juggalo.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, it fucking ruled, dude.
Whoop,
Experience
whoop.
of a lifetime, honestly.
Awesome.
So
Oh,
cool, yeah.
dude.
Whoop whoop.
Yeah.
I was wondering too, you also run a podcast. You're 1/3 of a podcast
Yeah.
called the 30 Characters Podcast. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so it's basically, I mean, we don't do interview style. Like, we have a guest on, and then we just talk for a little bit, and then it's just, we just do a character if we want, and it's basically like just one long interview with either fictional people, celebrities we're impersonating, whether it's good or bad impersonations, and it's just like super silly and fun and goofy. We do a main episode that lasts about an hour, and then we do 4 10-minute interviews with whichever character we all enjoyed the most of a certain person. So it's like super fun and silly and loose. Nothing serious. Don't talk about anything other than just being goofy characters. Like the most recent episode, I brought up how Orson Welles. I don't know have y'all ever heard Orson Welles outtakes?
Mm-mm.
Dude, it is the best.
His outtakes?
When he's like doing commercials or voiceover work, he gets drunk, and then like some guy was trying to get him to say, he's like, in July, you want me to say in July? No one pronounces it that way. Get someone to pronounce it that way, I'll go down on you. Stuff like that. And then I just started being Orson Welles, how I threatened to go down on people all the time. So that's kind of like an example of the podcast. But like Yeah, look up Orson Welles outtakes. They are so fun to listen to. He's like hammered. He's angry that he's doing a commercial instead of doing like legit work, you know, because he got like kicked out of Hollywood kind of. His story is interesting as hell, dude.
How did he get kicked out of Hollywood?
He was like a very politically active dude, and they didn't like exactly what he was pitching. So like they kind of, I think that's part of it anyway. I don't know if he was like also difficult to work with, you know, but he made what a lot of people say is the best movie of all time. I'm more of a Casablanca fellow or Godfather, but you know, everyone's got their own taste. I'm a Juggalo and a Casablanca guy.
You're very
How do you work
diverse.
that in?
Here's looking at you, Juggalo.
Whoop whoop.
Yeah.
What other kind of characters do you have on the show?
I mean, we've had someone just straight up play cum.
Play cum?
Yeah, just they were like, "Hi, I'm cum. How you doing?" And we were like, "So are you gender fluid?" Yeah, okay. You know what I mean? Like, so like it's just goofy shit. Like that's the level of insanity that it gets to. So that's why it's like super fun. Like my one buddy plays Buffalo Bill, and how, like, you know from Silence of the Lambs, right?
Yeah, I was going to question which one. But
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you know that scene? It's the funniest thing where Jodie Foster's like, "Have you seen this woman?" He's like, "No." "Oh wait, was she a great big fat person?" Do you know that scene? Do you guys know that? Yeah. So then like all his entire take on the character is him like trying to help people lose weight. Like, "Oh, I used to be a great big fat person, and you cannot be too," or something like that. So it's like super silly, fun shit like that. It's a great time, yeah.
Now, how did that get all started?
Because we used to do a podcast a while ago, but it was like talking, and we would sometimes occasionally do characters. We're like, honestly, it feels like the best part of this podcast is when we break into characters. Why don't we just have that be the podcast rather than like kind of just talking or whatever? And it would be kind of like a, you know, unique little thing that's like our little pocket. Kind of, I mean, the closest thing would probably be like Comedy Death Ray or something like that, you know? Or Comedy Bang Bang. I forget now. It's Comedy Bang Bang, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, now that's what it is. Yeah. But like we're ourselves only interspersed, and we then interact with the characters. They pop in, and then it switches to someone else, and so on and so forth. So, yeah, I mean, it's a great time. I love it. So if you're into that kind of weird, goofy shit, come on over to 30 Characters for a bit.
Cool.
Yeah.
How would somebody get involved in that?
You can subscribe on anywhere you get your podcast. You can get it. We also now have been putting out YouTube videos and clips, so you can go to my YouTube, hosts a lot of the clips we've had, yeah, I mean it's you know, that's how you can find it online. Cool. It's fun as hell.
Oh, yeah.
Very cool.
And then check out Demented and Ugly on YouTube and Tubi.
And Tubi. Don't forget about Tubi.
Yeah, I got so close to monetizing
What the
on
fuck is
YouTube.
Tubi? Just kidding.
Yeah. No, it's where you can get like literally the craziest fucking movies for free as long as you're willing to sit through an ad. And man, dude, they have some wild stuff on there that like there are bars I go to that'll play like crazy Tubi movies, and I'm like, all right, I guess I'll watch that when I get home, you know?
You got a favorite?
Honestly, I don't know if it's on Tubi, but it's okay. So like favorite bad movies, The Room, obviously. Y'all know The Room, right? The Tommy
I
Wiseau
don't know
thing.
if I've seen it, no.
Oh man, so it's one of those that's so bad it's good. And then like one of my favorite crazy movies is you ever seen? It's Peter Jackson's first movie, but it's like insane. It's called Dead Alive, I want to say. And it's about like it's like a comedy, like it's like slapstick, but there's so much like gore and blood in it, and it's like, yeah, I remember seeing it at a Canadian bar for the first time. It was just on in the background. I'm like, what is this movie? And then I coincidentally like found it a few years later. I'm like, this is that movie where he's like slipping on blood and like there's just like blood. He's like, I think it's like Bruce Campbell, I want to say too. You know, like iconic horror movie dude. So, but those are two of my favorite like goofy. I don't know if they're on Tubi, but those are like what popped to mind about like weirdo, insane shit.
Do you got any other projects you're working on?
You know, obviously next year I'll be taping a special. That hasn't been solidified yet, but I'm probably going to try and get CYSK New York because it'll kind of be a tribute to my buddy Kenny who passed away about a year ago. Kenny DeForest, check him out too, man. Just the best dude. Yeah, just a great guy. Super funny too. But beyond that, I mean, just check out my YouTube channel. I've been putting more and more shit up there. I was just about to put like a compilation of all of my like dating relationship-esque jokes on there tomorrow. So you can find 30 Characters Podcast there. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Actually, you have it on your little notes. Let me just see that.
Yeah.
What the fuck was the other thing I'm trying to promote? Oh, yeah. Comedians You Should Know Wednesdays at Timothy O'Toole. Super fun show. Come check that out. I perform there like once or twice a month. And then I run a mic on Sundays called Will's Northwoods Inn, or Three Dead Moose open mic at Will's Northwoods Inn. It's super fun. It is an insane time, too. Like, it's last Sunday we had an Irish singer just happened to walk in, And she was like watching the mic, enjoying it. And then when I talked to her for a bit, in the middle of the mic, I was like, so, and she's like, oh, yeah, I sing professionally in Ireland. I'm like, can we just close out the mic with that? And then she did. And it's just like, I mean, an open mic is so fun to host. Like, it's so much more fun than a show because there's no stakes. And, you know, it's a room full of generally comedians. But we have like some regulars who've been coming back now who are just awesome folks. And, yeah, it's been so much fun. So swing by Will's Northwoods and on Sunday nights. And if you want to perform, sign up at 7, bro.
What would you give? What's a piece of advice you would give to like a comedian that just going up to that show for the first time? Yeah, for the first time ever. They'd never performed. They're just like, I want to do this for the first time.
Have fun, be loose, and don't take it to heart if you bomb. You know, so many comics, they'll be bombing. And it's like, I feel like, this is what I've said about mics. The first half of a mic is people not paying attention because they're thinking about what they want to say. The second half of a mic is people not paying attention because they're mad about how they did. And that's truly like the epitome of an open mic. So
they
like,
don't pay attention at all.
Yeah. Well, like, don't be supportive. Watch the mic. Send a competition. And if you actually, like, everyone focuses so much on their own set that it's like, if you watch an open mic, 40 people go up, how many do well? Maybe 5 to 10 on a good night. Everyone's bombing. It's all right. No one's going to like hate you or think differently of you unless you are truly insane, which occasionally happens. Like this one lady used to come in. She would do like this weird poster board stuff that it was just like, what is happening right now? But unless you're like truly insane, no one will remember you bombing. And everyone will be nice to you and generally like, just like, let's hang out, have fun. Because comics, a lot of times, the amount of times comics towards the end of their set threaten to commit suicide. I'm like, yeah, they'll be like, all right, well, I'm going to go home and kill myself. I'm like, I think we're all right, man. You don't need to do that. Like,
it's just 5 minutes.
Dude,
no one's
yeah.
going to remember it.
Yeah. No, that's the thing. I always say, like, if you really watch an open mic from an objective perspective, it's like, oh, yeah, no one's really doing well. And for me to think I'm going to crush 20 comics in, so I should just go up there and have a good time, you know?
And I think you got to fall flat on your face. You got to eat the asphalt once or twice.
Yeah.
A couple times to get good at it.
Thickens the skin, too. That is true.
Sure does.
Yeah.
Sure does. Do you have any bombing stories that you have? Any times that you've completely eaten it?
Yeah, I'll tell the full story, I guess. So, like, there was a place I was performing, Spring Lake, Michigan. It was in a hotel bar. The TVs were on. They were playing the Big East tournament. Before the show was a Jimmy Buffett cover band. And as they were wrapping up, they go, all right, we got a couple more songs, and then the comedy show starts. And the audience audibly went, no. So they didn't want a show. People are watching sports in the back. Then in the front, they don't want comedy to happen. And I have to go up and do 30 minutes cold before the headline. That's also why I quit, because it was just like these shows I was doing that was like, I'm in a hotel bar doing 30 cold. So like the guy who like ran it was like, hey, so I'm hosting. And I was like, oh, okay, thank God they have a host. And then he just goes up there and goes, so we have $5 buckets of Miller Lite. Chicken wings are 50 cents a wing. Brian, good to see you. And now give it up for your host, Jeff Hernandez. Like, didn't even get my name right. So I go up. I'm trying to get them to care. It's going at best okay. But there's this lady at her table who keep talking like super loud, like clearly distracting. And so I try to riff with her a bit. And then I start like, and obviously I've gotten so much better at handling this situation, but like I was so mad and she wouldn't stop talking. And then she's like, your comedy's gross. It's disgusting and it's offensive. And I was, well, we're on camera, but all right. I said, ma'am, nothing's as offensive. Oh, because that's what she goes. And I have students in the crowd because I guess she was like a teacher and some of her older students who she had taught in town were in the room. And I didn't, and I go, well, ma'am, nothing's as offensive as when you tongued your students' balls when they were 12.
Oh, no.
And that was 10 minutes into my set, and I do 30.
Oh,
and this lady
man.
must have been a beloved teacher because holy shit, did everyone just sit there. So that was a time when I was the comic who the audience turned on.
There was
so yeah, I forgot about that. Thanks for having me think of that again.
Sorry to bring up the old past.
God damn,
memories.
that was like 13 years ago, something like that. It was, yeah, dude. And then on top of which, like, I will say afterwards though, a girl was in the back who was like, I thought you did really well, and I'm like, okay. And then we made out later, and that ruled.
Hell yeah.
So there was a silver lining, comics, at the end. You may bomb, but someone may want to make out with you later. That's the advice I'll give you. That's the advice I'll leave you with.
That's good advice.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
good advice.
How do you get someone to make out with you? Just kidding.
Just eat
be
complete
good.
shit and offend a room full of people, and then I guess be the only attractive person in a Spring Lake, Michigan hotel bar that the girl's like, well, this guy's kind of the only attractive option.
You have like some really dark comedy. What's like the biggest like? Is there a joke that you've said that like has offended the most amount of people?
I'm trying to think. Gosh, I don't think there's anything specific. A specific joke that offends the most amount of people. Oh, I guess the one where I say I went on a ghost tour in Europe. They take their ghost tours seriously. Like I went on a ghost tour this one place, Auschwitz.
Oh.
And then I go like, yeah, that was where I was like, man, that was not fun at all. But like, and again, to defend that joke, I would say is that if you go on an American ghost tour, it's fucked up what they're saying. Like you're in New Orleans, you're drinking a hurricane, and they're like, yeah, this is where 300 kids died. I'm like, I guess we're all having a good time. Like they talk about the La Lurie Mansion. Have you ever heard of that in New Orleans? Dude, it's this lady who like owned a ton of slaves, tortured them in this separate room, and they tell all this on the ghost tour, and everyone's like, woo! This was an American Horror Story season 3, and it's like, I think this is a fucked up story, guys. Like,
Oh my god.
and so that's what the purpose of that joke is, to be like, it's weird that just change the perspective and the lens on something fucked up. But yeah, so
How Americanized is that, though? You know, you start it with a hurricane, you end it in a gift shop, and it's all happy,
Yeah.
smile rainbows through it.
dude, yeah,
I did a ghost tour of Chicago once, and I was like, this is just morbid. I don't
Yeah,
know
dude.
if I could do this for very long.
dude. I mean, ghost tours, they tell stories that you're just like, and this is fun. That was
People pay to see this. This
dude.
is
Well, there's the story about the Congress Plaza Hotel, that woman who jumped out of a window with her kids.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
room
it's like,
443. I think,
yeah. So it's like, yeah, ghost tours are just fucked up stories that it just depends on how you tell them. And then if you say this person still haunts this spot, I guess that makes it fun.
Makes money.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever seen the thing that I was watching the shows, I think it was just called Dark Tourism, and they talked about all the dark tourism and haunted places throughout the world. People would pay to go to Chernobyl, people would pay to go to New Orleans and see the ghosts. And the Dallas one was really wild because they would pick you up in a stretched limousine golf cart.
Oh, like-
and then you would go through the area where JFK was shot, and Jackie Kennedy would hop in your car.
No way.
And it was just this actress who would just sit there very somber and very sad and like covered in like a blood printed like pink dress.
I'm surprised.
Have you
they can
heard
get
of
away-
this?
No, but I'm surprised they can get away with that in Dallas. 'Cause I feel like Dallas would be like, hey, we're shutting this down.
Yeah, it's messed up, but I don't know if they still do it, but it was on the dock. But that would make me so uncomfortable, wouldn't it? To, like,
If for no other reason, the actress, I'd be like, hey, are you okay?
yeah,
How is this the only gig you can get?
right?
How
Have you,
much are
heard,
they better be paying you a lot to just be a sad widow.
have you heard of OnlyFans?
Yeah, right. She's still dressed up as Jackie O for that, though.
But
Jesus.
I don't know, man. Like, where do you draw that line, though, too? You know, because I was a tour guide in Chicago for many years, and people would be like, why don't you talk about Al Capone? Why don't you talk about Bloody Valentine's Day Massacre? And I'm like, there's enough people getting shot and killed right
Dude,
now.
yeah, that's what's also
Don't
crazy is that it's all these people from like Iowa, Nebraska. They're like, oh, we're such wholesome people. And then they're like, hey, where did Al Capone murder a guy? And you're like, what? Were you just offended that I mentioned that Viagra Triangle?
Oh my god.
Right?
Because I used to do tours too, and it's like, if I one time brought up the Viagra Triangle, and the lady's like, that was really offensive, and I'm like, what about when I talked about Al Capone murdering people? She's like, well, no. I'm
No,
like, a boner drug?
my husband's penis doesn't work, and that offends us. He got red during
Yeah,
that.
she said my tour was too sexual to me,
Ugh,
and I was like,
I've heard that before, bro.
yeah.
I once called the building is the Crane Communications building in Chicago. You know, the one that's shaped like a diamond.
Oh yeah.
I called-
What is that called now?
I think it's still the Crane Communications, but I called it the Vagina Building.
Oh yeah.
In my joke, I was like, well, I didn't call it the Vagina Building. I talked about it. I said the architect saw all of these tall, flaccid buildings in the city, and he thought, true story, what if you sliced it like with a samurai sword and you exposed a bunch of windows on the ends? And I said it threw out a bunch of tall, flaccid buildings. It's interesting to have a diamond-shaped building very in the middle of that corner in front of Grant Park, which is all rubble of the Chicago fire, where through the ashes of failure rise the roses of success. to have such fertile land in front of a vagina-shaped building. And everyone goes, oh, wow, look at that. That's so unique. And then I had so many Karens be like, you can't call it the vagina building. And I got strung up by the company, and they were like, you can't say that. I'm like, am I wrong, though? It's right there, plain as day. And if you want to take it a step further, the Superman movie where, spoiler alert, kids, where when Superman dies and he's resurrected and then he flies back into Metropolis, that building is clear as day in the background as the quote unquote rebirth of Superman. Also, I'll take it a step further. If you've ever seen the movie Adventures in Babysitting, in the movie, a baby escapes and crawls onto the side of that vagina building. So I brought that up to my boss too. I was like, you can't reprimand me for that. I'm like, it is what it is. And but there's a delicate way to say it.
And I don't know if it is weird how it's like you can bring up all these murderers. Like you could also, I mean, like, yeah, but then I think it's like weird how in American culture specifically, because I think Europe's the opposite, where like sex fine to talk about, but like they don't do guns. But here it's like, yeah, man, make the Matrix. Show a bunch of people getting shot.
Right.
their lives don't matter. Like John Wick, just fucking shooting people left and right.
But
Machine Gun Jack McGurn lined everybody up against this wall and Chicago typewriters all around.
But then it's like you show a tit in a movie, they're like, well, this is R now.
Right.
Like, what?
Right.
Why do you think that is though? Like in Europe, like you go to like a sauna, you can be naked and nobody will tell you nothing, right? Like here, you go to a sauna, you have to have like your underwear. And
America's over sexualized. Would be my.
That makes a lot of
it.
sense.
It's over sexualized. Where in Europe, it's okay because it's just
because they don't over sexualize everything.
Yeah, it's just human nature. Here, it's over sexualized and fueled with testosterone and lead.
There's like some stat that's about like where the weirdest porn searches are Utah and Alabama or something. So where it's
I believe that. I believe that.
Sex is more like repressed. It's like they're like
you got all the Mormons and all the like fucking like stepmommy fanatics in Alabama.
It's like that's kind of like oddly going back to the whole thing of like so we know you guys think about sex, so just chill out about it instead of being like, hey, you can't say that. You know what I mean? It's that whole thing of like, I know you think sex is negative, but it's really not that big a deal, and you all do think about it. So, like, I know you don't want to admit to it, but man, yeah, that's otherworldly level. Like,
would it be fair to say America puts the pussy on the pedestal?
Which,
in the sense of like where in in Europe, where it's like
what's
it's
pussy?
very it's
like the guy pussy,
not metaphorically, but maybe literally. Where again in Europe it's just a part of human nature, but in America it's over sexualized, and they put sexuality up on this pedestal where it's this thing where you have, you know, hunky people making it, you know, having sex on, but it's a different connotation from where it is in Europe, though.
Well, that's why they don't have a European Diddy.
I'm sure they do. Wasn't there that one guy who was that like talk show host who was doing that kind of shit back then?
Oh, Jimmy Savile, the British
Jimmy
one.
Savile, yeah.
Also, France didn't have an age of consent until recently, so
really?
they're the way we are with guns is the way they are with sex, where it's kind of like anything goes.
It's kind of weird.
Yeah, dude. Up until like I think it was 2021, I found this out because I was I forget what bit I was doing. I do this show Paper Machete at the Green Mill, which shout out to them.
Oh,
that one rules.
show,
3 p.m. on Saturdays at Green Mill. That is an amazing time, dude. People wait in line to get into that one. But I was doing some French character, and I was trying to find out more facts about France, and I saw some article that was like, France finally institutes age of consent, and I was like, when is this from? And it was like 2 years ago. I was like, what? And it was 15 is the age of consent there, but there were some people who were arguing for 13. I'm like, damn, dude, they are different than us. Yeah.
Yikes.
That kind of makes me want to pull back on the whole like sexuality, like.
Read about it. It's American sexuality. It's over glorified. But yeah, no, it's weird all around. Can I tell you guys a funny joke about French sexuality that I heard a while ago? I can't take credit for this though. It's one of my buddies, Matt Rainey, Matty, good old Matty from Big Bus Chicago. He taught me this a while back. We were working for a different company, so didn't want to get into that lawsuit. Anyways, there was this joke. It was about Francois, the French aviation pilot extraordinaire, Francois. And one time, Francois was meeting this nice young lady, right? and they're up on a hillside, and they're sitting on a blanket. They got a picnic basket. They're eating grapes and eating crackers, and they're about to drink some wine. And the girl says to Francois, she goes, Francois, I want you to kiss me here. And Francois pours, he gives her a sip of wine, and then he kisses her passionately on the lips, and he says, anytime Francois caresses and kisses a woman on the lips, he wants them to taste like the grapes of France. Okay. She's going with it. And then she's like, ooh, Francois, you're so sexy. I want you to kiss me here on the titty. Francois says, okay. And he pours wine on her chest. And then he starts going into her bosoms, and he says, anytime I caress a woman and her beautiful curves, I want them to remind me of the beautiful French hills and all the grapevines. And then he starts motorboating her and goes down. And then she's really hot right now at this point, right? And she says, Francois, I want you to kiss me here on the private parts. So Francois pours a bottle of Everclear on her lap, lights it on fire, and she goes, Francois, what are you doing? And he says, anytime Francois, the French aviation pilot, goes down, he goes down in flames.
That's a French street joke?
I don't
Or
know.
a street joke about the French?
It was maybe a Chicago street joke about the French. Okay. But I don't know. I like that one.
And how did that go with the tourists when you told it on the bus?
I wouldn't say it on the bus, but between tour guides.
Like, speaking of vagina-shaped buildings, y'all heard about this Francois shit?
You haven't? Great. I'd love to fill you in.
Cool. All right. So no one's heard this one before.
Chicago is Paris on the prairie. You'll love this one. No, there were certain jokes we couldn't tell on there.
Oh, of course,
but, yeah. One of the big ones I had was anytime we would go underneath the, that big kind of like snaky maze going over in between Millennium Park, between Millennium and Maggie Daly. There's that like big metal thing. I would say, this right here, my friends, we like to call the cheese grater. So any Green Bay Packers fans, if you'd please stand up. And I'd wait for everyone to be like, because you like if you stand up, you're getting
knocked up. Yeah, no, those
cheese heads getting.
I remember one time I was driving
not
down
the cheese grater.
I got reprimanded real quick for that one.
Oh yeah. Well, all it takes is one person to be like, nah, not cool.
Right.
That's why it's lame. Yeah.
Right.
You do that.
But dark humor's fun.
It is.
Dark humor's fun.
That's not even that dark. All you're talking about is just. It's like a cheesy joke, legitimately. You know.
And decapitation.
Yeah. But also have a sense of humor.
Right.
Like, you don't actually wish death on them.
Right.
Yeah.
Until playoffs come. I'm kidding.
Sorry, Wisconsin.
Joe, one of the jokes you said in your stand-up, I was telling Jay this earlier. We thought it was so funny. I forgot what the joke was, but you go, it's okay. I can say that because I don't care.
Oh, what was that one?
That line was so perfect. That needs to be on a T-shirt, and you got to sell that shit. That is so funny.
Oh,
that's what most comedians have to do. It's all like, you know what, man? Like, I'm gonna tell this joke, and it's gonna be okay because I personally do not care what you think.
Because you expect them to say like, "It's okay, I'm Irish, I can say it."
Well, and also, I know that the tag for that. I know what joke it was, where it was like, it was the joke about putting a kid in with a disability to score a touchdown or to make a comeback or whatever. And then the thing about, I mentioned cerebral palsy, and I was like, I can't remember. It was something about New Balance shoes. And so then if people got uptight about it, I'd be like, it's okay, I can say that, I don't care. And then I'd like the follow-up was like, I don't even know anyone with cerebral palsy, so it doesn't bother me, you know? Which is kind of why, like, in a weird way, it's making fun of, like, yeah, that's probably why people tell offensive jokes about things that aren't important to them, because if you don't see that struggle, that is why you're able to make that bit. So that's kind of what, the goal was there. I don't know. Also, it's just kind of fun.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
It's so funny. I wish more people felt that way, that they can say that because they just don't care.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I feel like nowadays a lot of comedians like hold back on jokes because they feel that other people are going to care what they say.
Or maybe they care too much, too.
As to compare it to like before, they would just say things, and like if people cared about it, it was like, all right, whatever. Like not cared about it, but like if they thought it was like offensive or whatever.
Or like, I mean, I don't know. It's just as long as you write the joke in a way that people understand that you are in fact joking and don't mean what you're saying. That's kind of the biggest thing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Establishing your personality, let them know that what you're valid. Like, that you are joking and that you understand the gravity of what you're talking about and that you don't mean what you're saying, kind of. You know what I mean?
Right.
How do you draw
To
the
explain
line?
it, to say, hey, I'm being irreverent right now.
Yeah, or ironic or
This is the
satirical.
bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, with the whole, it's okay and said, I don't care. You know, that's why the tag is like, I don't even know anyone's cerebral palsy because it doesn't bother me. It's kind of making fun of, like, saying, like, that is why sometimes people will joke about something if they don't know what the actual, like, the actual struggle is with that, you know? And that's why it makes it easier from an outside perspective to joke about it. So that's why I was kind of, like, hopefully getting that across anyway. Yeah.
That makes sense. Like, I'm gonna joke about cancer because I have nobody that I know with cancer.
Dude,
Shit, you know?
that actually was last time I did a roast show before the most recent one was like 6 years ago, and I was going up against a dude who had cancer as a kid, you know, and so when we were sitting down together, I was like, so can I make fun of that? And he's like, yeah, sure. And so I did a couple bits about that, and the crowd tightened up, and I just responded, be like, what do you guys know someone who died of cancer? and I mentioned earlier, my aunt died of it, so it's not like I'm not understand. It's just like I like to joke about that stuff. You know what I mean? It's not like I don't have a personal attachment to that too. It's just kind of trying to be silly about something serious. So yeah,
Sure. You know, is there? I guess what am I trying to ask? When you were on these roast shows, have you ever heard any good jokes about yourself that maybe stung a little too hard, or maybe something that a comedian wrote about you that maybe you incorporated into
yeah,
your
how
act?
deep do these like roast shows?
You know,
go?
They go kind of deep.
Yeah,
They
but
go
I've never
pretty
had
deep.
anyone write anything about me that the only one, and it stuck with me because of how hard the audience laughed, and I still don't get it. It was a show called Afterthoughts. So you would do a set, and comics would be writing roast jokes about you as you did your set, and then they'd be read aloud by someone. And the one that got the hardest pop was Joe looks like he owns birds. And it like leveled the room, and I couldn't even hear the rest of the roast jokes. I'm like, what does that mean? What do I look like? Why do I look like I own birds? And that is the only roast joke that has ever stuck with me, because the rest are just kind of like, it's you look like, you know what I mean? It's all kind of, a lot of roast jokes are all just you look like this thing, you this, you know what I mean? It's a lot of it's pretty formulaic. So that one just because it was so bizarre yet it crushed so hard, I was like, what does that mean? What does that say about my appearance?
Could be worse. Could be it looks like you own ferrets, which is that
Yes,
puts you
that
on a whole other level.
True.
I mean, Mike Tyson owned and still owns birds, and he's doing all right.
Yeah, but what does it mean to look like
Relatively
you own
speaking.
birds?
You look like Mike Tyson, bro.
That's the celebrity comp I get the most.
You're
No,
unhinged and you're willing to snap anybody's neck.
You have
Yeah.
a lisp.
Dude, you know what celebrity comp I get the most is Ted Bundy.
Ouch.
No way.
Yeah, that's what I get the most. I've gotten it like multiple times.
Yeah. How does that make
Why?
you feel?
Well, what they try and cover it up with, they're like, no, he's a good-looking guy. And I'm like, yeah, but like there's a connotation here. Like even if Mussolini were hot, you still wouldn't want to look like him. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
just the mere mention of the person is kind of a not hot. And also, like, yeah, if I look like Ted Bundy and some woman's like, oh, that reminds me of that documentary I saw, I shouldn't go near that guy. You know what I mean? So it's like,
He's got Riz.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know if it's the right kind of Riz.
no, right. He's got horrific manipulative Riz. Why does he have a cast on his arm? Yeah,
That's the kind of Riz you'll wind up in a ditch later.
dude. Yeah,
Sheesh.
dude. That documentary about him is wild. I don't know if y'all have seen it. But,
Oh, the one with Zac Efron?
or no, that's a fiction. But I've never watched that movie, but I know what you're talking about. But the documentary, it's like, dude, this guy. It's weird how much of a compulsion it is for them when their brain is that wired in that fashion. You're like, oh, this is like an addiction to you. Like, you can't stop yourself. It was weird. They said when he got arrested and the cops, he's like, oh, finally, or something like that. Like, he was actually glad to be stopped or something. I don't know if that was Ted Bundy or if it was a different serial killer, but it was like, oh, weird, dude. Like, this is like what crack is like to them.
I believe that, man. Like, I used to watch this one show where they would explain pretty much like the mindset of a serial killer. Like, pretty much, you don't have to understand what they're going through. It just has to make sense to them. And then once, like you were saying, he gets stopped, and he was like, "Oh, thank God!" It's like he can't control that shit.
Yeah.
You know what I
Well, and
mean?
even like if you see Dahmer in his like final testimony, he's like reading this thing, and he's reading it so like cool and calm. He's like, I don't know why I am the way I am. You know, I wish I wasn't, but this is how I am. And it's like, it's like such brutal honesty. But the fact that he also doesn't care is like also just There's something like
Right.
obviously, I was about to say something disturbing about it. I don't know what it is. Can't put my finger on it.
I don't
That's
know. Maybe
weird
he
about
killed a bunch of people.
weird about Dahmer chillingly, coldly reading that he wishes he was different than a guy who fucks people. But
Yeah. That one was wild. I didn't eat for a week after watching that.
Did you watch the documentary or the TV show?
Both.
Yeah.
Of them, yeah.
I did. I watched both too.
The zombie thing was nuts.
Dude, that just shows how insane they are. It's like trying to make a sex zombie out of someone.
Right.
Dude, I mean, it's just they're not living in the same reality as us.
Oh no.
Yeah.
No. You had a really funny bit about it where you were like, it's the murder documentary in itself is such a weird genre, especially for anyone these days. Everyone's into it. And you were the point that you made was it's all of our entertainment upon all these families suffering.
Yeah.
And the joke that you made was like, all these families suffering and all the pain they had endured is just something that we fall asleep to.
Dude, isn't that true though?
And that's messed up. That's
Yeah.
so messed up when you put it to that perspective. It's so wild.
I asked someone like, why do you think it is that people really do just casually watch it and fall asleep to it? Because I know so many people who do. And they were like, you know what it is? It's just people gently talking, generally speaking. They're like, you know what I mean? It's like oddly, not because of the subject matter, but because it's just consistent, verbal, like the most disturbing ASMR that's slightly louder, I guess. Like
Probably there's speech and cadence or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Speech cadence.
Can't you watch how it's made? That's what I did back in the day. That shit puts me to sleep every time.
Yeah, I fall asleep to old episodes of Seinfeld, some of his episodes of Big Mouth or something. I mean, I watch stuff that is very dialogue heavy to fall asleep. We all should. Who's falling asleep to like cinematography driven film? But
I used to go to sleep to South Park.
yeah, no, I think everyone has
That
their
explains a lot.
but everyone has their comfort thing they fall asleep to because they've seen the episode already and it's reassuring, but you don't need to see it because you already know what's happening. So it like just kind of puts you in a comfortable place. So it kind of makes sense, you know?
I've read about that where people with like autism or ADHD, they find comfort in knowing the track pattern of it. They know it's going to happen.
Yes.
They find comfort in repetitiveness.
There's not the anxiety of what's going to happen. Their emotions don't get heightened. Yeah.
They know what to expect.
Mm-hmm.
Until you get to the murder docs, and then you're like super fixated and hooked on caffeine, and you're like, why am I so anxious all the time? It's like, well.
Yeah. I think also murder docs are so fascinating because it's like, oh, we share DNA with these people. You know? Like
Yeah.
what was the difference between where they went and where I went that I'm not like that? I think that's why it's like, because we want to know why they're like that. And it's kind of like, based on anything I've watched, it's like, they just are. It's like a hurricane. It's like, why are hurricanes like that? They just are.
A lot of them had like really traumatic experiences back in the day. Like their fucking parents were like beating each other up and shit like that. You know
But don't a lot of people have that and they don't end up that way, you know?
Yes. But sometimes you're like, as a person, your like experience gets like very distorted compared to like other people's. Like, let's say your family, like, let's say like I'm a serial killer and like back in the day, my mom and dad used to beat each other. They don't have that mental capacity to explain to me, hey, me and your dad are beating each other up because whatever reason, as to like compare my parents would probably like beat each other up and they'll be like, hey, this is the reason we're doing it. You know what I mean? Like we get a little bit more of, they get less mental explanation into why things are happening. And so they assume when they're older, hey, this is how I have to act as a kid, as to compare to like some like quote unquote regular people.
Yeah.
They
Right.
get that explanation. It's like, all right, well, this is how adults react sometimes. I'm going to do something to not react that way. As to where they react that way because they have no other explanation. They have no other reason why they could.
And you know, I and this may be a tricky topic, but after watching the Dahmer thing, I was like, I didn't realize how much homophobia went into both his case and the Gacy case.
Yeah.
And
the Gacy one too, dude. He's yeah.
But it got me thinking. I was like, like, did they act that way because people were so homophobic back in the day that they felt that they needed to hide it? And it was this dirty secret that they had, and not condoning it by any means, but you know what I mean though, of like they saw that learned behavior and they're like, I need to hide this from society.
Well, and it kind of goes back to that thing about talking about Utah and Alabama looking up the most fucked up porn. It's like probably because you're repressing your natural self. and then you get angrier and angrier, and then it manifests itself in a way that is like so out of right field, you know. But then
Right.
again, other people were repressing it too and didn't go that way. But then I'm sure some people I mean, with Dahmer, I'm sure it's just complete detachment from reality. And with Gacy, it seemed to come from a place of anger. Like, he seemed like a really just angry, messed up dude.
Yeah.
But it's weird. That fine line of like, you know, oh, so because I had parents who didn't do something messed up to me, or because this, that, and the other, is it truly just that thin that I just got lucky? There's like a lottery that got pulled. You know what I mean?
Right. And for the fact that they took Dahmer's brain and they were like, we should study this, and then they were like, no, we're just gonna burn it.
Did they really?
Yeah, they incinerated it at the University of Madison. University of
study it at
Wisconsin,
all?
Madison. I don't think they did. They took it and they had it in a jar, titled Abby Normal, and then they decided not to study it. That was
That's fucked up. Because they
young
should have.
Frankenstein
They
bit,
should
but
study
never
like.
mind.
Oh, I didn't know. I was
science
like, I could see them doing it, just being like, let's have a little fun with this.
But you would think, though, that, like, you know, maybe there is something in there because people have tumors in their brains which make them act
Dude,
abnormally. You know?
There's a Radio Lab podcast about that where a guy was like a totally normal dude and then suddenly got addicted to child porn, and they found out he had developed a tumor, and then after they took it out, he was back to normal. And that's like crazy to think about. Like, hang on, wait a minute. All it takes is a tumor. That is, like, it makes it like
weird,
dude, scary to think about that. That's how I think it's a morality episode of Radio Lab. If you want to look it up and make sure that I'm getting the facts right and not just making an excuse for a guy.
Sheesh.
But oh no, the guy at University of Texas, the shooter, he was like studying and it was like similar things. Something developed that just messed up his brain. It's crazy that it's that thin a line of like, oh, is the only reason I obey the rules because I don't have something growing in my head that is like a problem, you know?
Right. Or had some sort of traumatic experience that affected your brain and its thought patterns. Yeah, no, who knows? But well, we're getting about that time.
I was about to say, bruh.
I know you got a party tonight at the
Hell
Laugh
yeah,
Factory.
bro.
Want to tell us a little bit about the holiday party at the Laugh Factory? That's got to be a riot.
It is fun as hell. Like I think I'm okay to talk about we played beer pong there. I don't think there's anything wrong with saying that.
Nothing wrong with
We do
beer pong.
karaoke and stuff on the main stage. It's super fun. I mean, it's like a lot of different comics that come in, and it's like open to all the comics. You know, comics. I think they cut off significant others and friends because there was a year where that was a problem. You know, so I think it's just like comedians because then it's like now it's like this is too many people and we don't know these folks. And it's like
they're all my friends. They're all my significant others.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, exactly. So I think it's just comedians, but it's like super, super fun. And it honestly is such a it's such a good thing for the community. I think for the stand-up community and everyone just being in the same spot. And it's like a night that I think a lot of comedians look forward to because it's like, oh, we're all just hanging out. I mean, it can be overwhelming too because you see literally like not even exaggerating, probably 100 or so people you know, and that's so much conversation to have in like a condensed 4-hour time of trying to hang out and say hi to everybody, and it's not really feasible. So it can be a little overwhelming too, but it is also super fun, and everyone looks forward to it. And the Laugh Factory does a cool thing where the only way you get in is if you bring a toy to donate to a toy drive. So like. And a funny joke is that the Walgreens that's by Laugh Factory, comics always forget to do it till the last second. So this Walgreens just gets destroyed by like their entire toy aisle is just decimated by comics last second buying a gift. So
that's funny.
But yeah, it's super, super fun. And it's like it honestly is such a great night. I think everyone always looks forward to it every year. So
good deal. Good deal. Well, before we wrap it up here, because I know you got to get going to that party, is there anything else you want our listeners to know?
No, man, I think that's it, dude. Just, keep having fun, keep watching Hawkwind.
What's one piece of advice you would give to any young comedian starting off?
I think you asked him that already.
Did I?
Yeah, just have fun.
Just have fun.
Don't put too much pressure on yourself. How about that?
Yeah.
That it's just like you don't need to be amazing right away. It's okay to bomb. Figure it out. Meet some people. Be kind in the scene. Be nice to people. You'll move along faster, which is weird that it even if you aren't a nice person, just for a selfish perspective, if you're nice, people want to talk to you.
Who would have thunk?
Yeah. Don't be a creep. It's really not that. It's like, honestly, when you're first starting out, man, just like enjoy. Like, I look back on that time of like, damn, dude, it's so fun. Just that first time of getting to know people, your first time's going up. It's kind of like starting school. It's like, okay, who can I talk to? Hey, I really liked your set. You're sheepishly, and then suddenly you have this like posse of people you go to mics with all the time, and like I miss those days. Kind of. It's like it was so fun because everything was so new. Your first time doing a show, even your first time doing a bad show when you drive 3 hours, and it's like in a hotel bar, and you're getting paid like $20 and a couple drink tickets, and then everyone bombs. No one is paying attention to the show, and the ones that are like don't like it. And then you drive back and have a great time talking for 3 hours, like commiserating over it. Like those things are kind of fun. I mean, in the moment they suck, but like then you really learn to appreciate that you bonded with those people on stuff like that. So definitely enjoy this beginning part if you're new.
And that's where a lot of the growth comes from, right?
Yeah, for real. And where a lot of your best friendships come from, So, yeah.
That's half the fun of it.
It is, man. You meet people through comedy that are, meet people who are just your friends for life, even when they don't do it anymore. They quit, and you're still friends with them,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think we're going to wrap it on up here, guys.
That was a positive note.
Yeah.
Instead of serial killers, we ended on friendship.
Glad we did.
The power of friendship.
Yeah.
Start on juggalos, got into serial killers, and on friendship. That's a good way to end it out. Thank you guys for watching Hawk Wins Radio Picture Show tonight. Joe Fernandez in the building tonight. If you guys are interested in any of his material, check it out down in the description. We're going to have all of his video links and all of his information down there. Give him a like, give him a follow, give him a share. It's just a couple clicks on the button, and it means the world to
And
artists.
it's free.
Hell yeah, bro.
Free. Share it out. Me and Jay always end the show with a little bit of a message for somebody, and also, before we get to the message, though, real quick, because we do have somebody leaving us some comments here. We're getting some notes from Emily. Emily said that the song It's My Party and I'll Cry If I Want To, that is a song by Leslie Gore.
Yeah, it's from like the 50s. Yeah.
Yeah. She also sang Sunshine, Lollipops.
Oh, there it is. Yeah.
Everything. I love that song. Also, Emily said, the narrator of Forensic Files makes me fall asleep. It's oddly calming.
Yeah.
Very
Doesn't matter what
accurate.
they're saying. It's just like her body was found in a ditch. It's like soothing.
I don't know how that would be, but hey,
Yeah.
teach their own. Teach their own. Well, thank you for the comment, Emily. We greatly appreciate it. And do we have any messages for anybody this week? Any challenges?
Support your local artist.
Yeah.
Whether that's comedians or musicians.
Support
All
them.
of them.
Go see a show. Go see 2 shows. Go see 5 shows. Invite your girlfriend. Invite
They're
your
like
wife.
$5. Go do it.
Don't invite them at
cares?
the same time.
Invite your girlfriends and your wives.
Not
at the same time.
Not at the same time. Keep that separate.
Make your life a little bit interesting.
Be an interesting car ride home. So again, support your local artist. Check out Hawk Wins. Check out any of our shows that we've recorded previously. If you like them, share them with your friends. And as always, it's great seeing you guys. Thank you for tuning in to Hawk Wins Radio Picture Show. My name is Jack Dwyer.
And I'm Jay Smooth.
Y'all have a great night. And again, check out Joe Fernandez.
Yeah.